Good morning. What an auspicious, wonderful, legendary day it is. Why do I say that? Well, as you can probably see from the balloons behind me and the balloon I'm holding here, it is absolutely a day of celebration. This balloon that I've just bought on the way in, all look, lights and everything, says congratulations. Congratulations to the country, congratulations to the British economy, congratulations to soldiers, congratulations to farmers, congratulations to old people and more. And congratulations to you as the public. Because Keir Starmer, in the last 15 or 20 minutes, as you just heard on Mike Graham's show, has resigned. What a day to be doing this show. I, as you can probably see, could not be happier. I am positively beside myself and ecstatic because this is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news. The only thing that's a shame, I think, from my perspective, is that he didn't hang on for a few hours longer so that we would see a revolving door of resignations from cabinet ministers kind of every 10 or 15 minutes, because that would have been the ultimate humiliation. We've just seen Keir Starmer outside Downing Street behind a lectern, resigning as Labour Party leader and Prime Minister, with a bit of a lump in his throat, choking really. And I have absolutely zero sympathy for that man whatsoever, because he has sought to destroy this bloody country. Good bloody riddance. Bye, Keir Starmer. Mike.
Hello.
what's your view?
Well, listen, I've been laughing since Saturday night. Yeah, let me take that. Because, quite frankly, when I saw on about sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock, I was watching a football match, I think it was a Germany game, maybe a bit later, and it said, you know, Starmer is now basically considering his position. And once you see that, you go, right, he's out.
It's over the top,
they
over
start,
the edge.
you know, they start briefing the Sunday newspapers, and when you find out that, you know, he's now lost all of his mates, and he can't imagine what's happened, and he's only now stuck with his wife, or she's stuck with him.
And even she said, I think it might actually be time to
Yeah,
go.
but you know what? I was actually saying earlier that, you know, the idea apparently was that she, a couple of weeks ago, convinced him to carry on.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, hang on a minute, she's Mrs. Starmer. She shouldn't be telling him to carry on. He's damaging the country.
But you know why, don't you? Because the Prime Minister has a very, very busy job. It means that Keir Starmer's at work or in another country a lot.
She
and
quite
so
likes
I think she
it,
quite
yeah.
likes him not being around. So she says, stick at it, Keir.
It's going to be a nightmare now because he's going to be home all the time, trudging about.
I mean,
you know.
far be it for me to cast aspersions on that particular marriage. But
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, the other thing that I thought was pretty despicable was that he's gone through this whole kind of gamut of emotion. I know you've got Lembit on in a minute, who'll talk you through the kind of weirdness of some of these politicians. That he started off by saying things like, I've won every fight that I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And I found myself coming in this morning going, you're not winning this one, are you?
Well, no, you're not going to win this one, but he's not including the 15 U-turns that he's made over the last 2 years.
No, and then he had the most despicable sort of suggestion was that he was now feeling betrayed last night by all these people in his own party because he gave up.
A bit like we feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit like the Chigossians feel.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
a
And
bit
farmers.
like the veterans feel.
And old people.
Old people, farmers, everyone, you know.
Rape victims.
Rape victims, you know, crime victims, people who have been murdered by migrants, you know, they're feeling a bit betrayed as well. And so he had the temerity to suggest that he'd given up part of his children's lives in order to make Labour electable. And I just thought to myself, it's not all about you, mate, you know.
But what
just
I'm worried
get
about
out.
now, I'm worried, Mike, that display just now of him kind of, you know, choking a little bit, the crack in his voice.
Oh, yeah.
We're now going to have people saying, well, you've got to feel a bit sorry for him. It was a life of duty.
Oh, no, you get a few of these Labour MPs already started
and the media,
before.
the left-leaning media.
Yeah, and they'll say things like, well, you know, let's not forget there's a human being at the end of this.
Beth Rigby, Cathy Newman, you know, no doubt Peston, Lewis Goodall, they'll all be saying what a great man, what emotion he showed.
Grown-ups are back in the room.
Sod that.
Remember that?
Yeah,
grown-ups are back in the room. Well, not anymore, they're not. They've been kicked out of the room.
Well, at least this is the first time in 2 years, and remember the lead up to the general election, he did say he was going to do this. It's the first time he's actually put country first.
Yes.
Isn't it? At last.
Yeah.
2
but
years
only because he was forced into it, because he literally ran out of road.
Yeah.
Because he'd still be there. It was only Friday he was saying he was going to fight on.
Yeah.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah. This morning on my way in, so the tubes weren't working very well. Thanks very much for that, TfL, by the way. 2026 and signal problems. How on earth can a signal break in 2026?
It's funny how
you
you get a lot of signal problems after a sunny Sunday.
Yes.
When the staff have all been on the Turks.
Yeah. And you can imagine how wonderful the staff was. Lots of people walking up to the staff at Oxford Street Station saying, can you help me, please? I'm trying to get to X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
They just turn around and walk off.
Yeah.
Don't bother talking to them.
I know.
Really horrible.
Yeah.
But I took the opportunity to walk actually from Victoria to Vauxhall. Yes, I know, man of the people.
Wow.
And I went into about 5 or 6 different shops to get these balloons.
Well done.
And one
That was a great thought.
one wonderful shopkeeper said to me, oh, you're having a party, you celebrate. I went, yes, I am. And he said, what are you celebrating? I said, Keir Starmer's resignation. You know what he did? Has it happened yet?
Yeah, right. Brilliant. No, because everybody in the country, I mean, there'll be street parties. There should be street parties.
We should do that.
We should actually
We
have
should
one.
have a street party, I think, and celebrate. But albeit what's coming next might not be so good.
Well, I've got a theory, and I believe that Andy Burnham is so conceited that he thinks that he's going to win an election now because he thinks that everybody loves him. Because he did get a very big number.
Because Makerfield, he got 55% of the vote in Makerfield.
Yeah.
One of the reddest of red wall seats, of course. Let's not forget that.
But of course, what he's forgotten is that Reform is still a very big party. Reform still did pretty well in Makerfield, even though they didn't win. But I think he'll have enough of these kind of Labour apparatchiks around him who'll go, yeah, definitely go for an election now because you'll get beyond 2029. You'll have 5 years on your own. And you can catch them on the hop because they're not quite ready.
Yeah.
And I think he'll do it. So I believe, anyway, from what I'm hearing from some parts of the Reform organisation, they're ready for an election.
Well, let's see if Andy Burnham now can actually find the money to do all the stuff that he promised. I mean, he didn't promise much. He was very light on policy, wasn't he, in the run-up to Makerfield? He was just a kind of, he was full of rhetoric and puff and bluster, really. But let's just remind ourselves what Andy Burnham has pledged. It's going to slash business rates for pubs and hospitality venues. It's going to nationalise water, which in itself could cost 100
I wish he'd
billion.
slash our business rates. We're paying quite a lot here.
Yeah, everyone's just gone up. He's also going to nationalise energy and transport, make a massive investment in council housing. He did talk about a few weeks ago nationalising basically housing full stop, but also making sure that we go back to building, like the days of the Macmillan government, 200,000 council houses a year.
Yeah, they all say that.
That will cost about £50 billion a year, so you've got to find
But
that
also,
as well.
whenever they say that, and you know more about housing than I do, I always get told we haven't got enough people to build those houses.
It's not enough bricks, it's not enough carpenters. No, it's not going to happen. The planning system won't allow it. No, it's all for the birds. It really is. And also, he's going to revive, of course he will, the northern leg of HS2 for what, another 100 billion.
Why?
So I think we're up to about 300 billion pounds worth of spending pledges here. And lots of backbenchers today on the front pages, even before the resignations, saying that obviously they want him to lurch left, and indeed to get rid of the manifesto pledges of the Labour government when they first got elected in July 24, which includes potentially now seeing a rise in VAT and a rise in income tax levels. That's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what Andy Burnham's going to find is that it might not be that easy because it may well be that there's still a couple of people in the rump of the Labour Party who don't think he should just walk into Downing Street. It's all a bit unseemly. And I mean, you saw Keir Starmer saying that, if there is to be a contest, that he will remain Prime Minister until the contest is over, suggesting that he's not going to be part of the contest, despite what he said on Friday.
Yep.
But there may well be, as you heard it from Hugh Andre in there and We Served, there is a belief that Al Khan's and John Healey might get together and decide to do something. Yeah. And don't forget, there's also all sorts of other people like Rachel Reeves to be taken into account. Ed Miliband, he's not shut up yet. Angela Rayner hasn't given up yet.
They'll be placated with all sorts of...
They might be.
Not just offers, but in terms of them getting certain jobs, being allowed to do what they want to do, kind of
Yes, with their own little kind of,
But by the way, can we get a
specialities.
screenshot of Mike St. It looks like he's about to do a balloon, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Which is
it
good
does.
for the...
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, we don't need any more now. I mean, I'm high enough as it is. I don't need anything. I don't need any fake.
Yeah, no, we're high on adrenaline, and
but it's fantastic. It's a
celebratory,
great day. It is a great day because, as I say, I mean, I've been predicting this for a long time, and you know what people are like. They go, "Oh, you've been saying that for months."
I remember.
I'm looking forward to all of these bozos on Twitter who used to say to me, "Oh, you say this every week. He's going to go."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now he's gone. What have you got to say for yourself?
I remember us saying, you and I, and certain others on another station somewhere. Back in the beyond, that all of the stuff that you were saying in the run-up to the general election was, of course, bunkum, and it would all come to naught, and that it was going to end in tears. And look, that has culminated today.
And he literally was in tears.
Well, the tears of his tears and his family, but mine and your tears of joy.
Exactly right. And I mean, good riddance. Auf Wiedersehen. You could actually do it in a load of different languages.
Well, I was going to do that.
You
but
know, arrivederci.
Yeah.
You could do that one. Au revoir.
Yeah. Ciao.
Baby.
Any others? Anyone?
Yeah.
Do svidania.
Do svidania, of course.
Do svidania.
Yeah.
No, we could do that actually. Yeah, no, we did try and put as many kind of vaguely insulting exit type
Yes.
suggestions on the
Yes,
ticker there.
absolutely.
Just to really make it clear.
And it's always worth going back through the old greatest hits as well of Keir Starmer, you know, with the releasing the sausages, all the great clips that we've all been watching for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Just how useless can one man be?
Quite the legacy, wasn't it? I did ask ChatGPT, actually, it's quite a long list. Can you give me the commonly cited criticisms and failings of Keir Starmer? And it literally goes on and on and on. Just to run through them, just very quickly. Economic growth, yeah, didn't do very well there, did he? Taxation, yeah, messed that up. Immigration, definitely messed that up. Housing delivery, yeah, non-existent. NHS waiting list, yeah, he failed on that and lied. Crime and policing, yeah, two-tier stuff. Energy and net zero. Policy U-turns, there was quite a few of them. Party management. How many cabinet members did he lose?
Oh, loads.
12, 15,
well, my favourite
like
is old Sue Gray, you know, who was hired to run the first 100 days of Labour government and left on day 93. You know, and you kind of go, you didn't even manage to stay 100 days. And the bottom line is as well, you know, he ran through a list of so-called achievements, and as we were watching it in the other studio, just go, nope, I don't think so.
That didn't happen.
No, and I mean, I think the only thing, I don't think he said actual breakfast clubs, but I'm surprised he didn't, because it's the only thing they ever say.
But the only thing you could say is the state brushing your children's teeth.
Yes.
If that's some kind of accolade or claim to fame.
Yeah, I know.
Really,
it's just been a disaster.
Well, foreign policy. I mean, he has been the Mr. Bean of international politics, hasn't he? So wandering onto stages, being ignored by Donald Trump, and generally being humiliated.
Yeah.
And then actually, whenever there's some kind of semblance of peace in Gaza or the Ukraine, he pops up with some letter he's written to try and somehow kind of take credit for it, which I find, you know, pathetic, but also very amusing.
It is very amusing.
Yeah,
but
I
he's
think
so
Armando
pompous.
Iannucci should now be writing some kind of political sketch, kind of, you know, comedy show in the kind of the same spirit as The Thick of It, but based on Keir Starmer.
But the trouble is they haven't got a sense of humour when they all get stooped, the lefties, have they? I mean, they can only make fun of Conservatives. They can only make fun of Donald Trump and Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, look at, have I got news for you? Will they be making fun of Keir Starmer? I very much doubt it.
I've got a list of prime ministers and how long they've lasted as well, which is quite interesting. So
I think he comes in around about the fifth
this is
worst
Labour
or something.
Prime Minister's period. So Blair, the longest lasting, 3,700 days. Harold Wilson lasted 2,835 days. Clement Attlee, 2,200 days. Callaghan, 1,100. MacDonald, 1,066. Gordon Brown, 1,048. And Starmer, at the bottom, a pathetic 717 days.
Yeah, I mean, he's lucky that he managed to last longer than Liz Truss, so he's not the least longest-serving Prime Minister of all time.
Yeah.
But he's pretty close to it, because he hasn't made 2 years.
I know.
You know?
I know. It's who would have thought, eh?
But isn't it interesting though? And I said this on the show that it sort of brings your faith back to democracy in a way, because as much as he seemed unassailable when he got in, it seemed that this is a guy who's never going to be removed because of his majority, and he's gone.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. But this is now, we're about to have Prime Minister number 7 in 10 years.
Yeah.
That is embarrassing.
It is a bit.
I mean, on the world stage, those looking at us will say, your politics is clearly broken.
Yeah, I think so.
If you can't, I mean, we haven't had a Prime Minister hold down their whole term since 2015.
Yeah.
So it's taken, in the last 11 years.
But you know what's interesting is that over time, and again, Lambert will probably know this better than me, there's only 2 Prime Ministers, and I think it's Heath and Major, who actually were elected and then lost the next election.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
Because the others go.
Because quite often they go before there's an election.
Yeah.
That's just the way of the world.
What's your view, as you're a bit of a soothsayer, a bit of a wise man, what's your view on the claim that Burnham's going to call an election?
I think he will.
Snap?
I think
You
he
there'll
will.
be a 2026 general election?
I think he will, yeah. I think there'll be one in the autumn, and I think he'll lose it. That's my prediction.
Not a Labour-Green coalition, which fills me with absolute dread.
No, because I think the Greens are done. Greens are finished.
300 votes in Makerfield.
Yeah, ridiculous.
But already claiming that they're going to be victorious in the
Well,
Manchester mayoral
old
election.
he called me Dave, is already claiming they're going to win the Manchester mayoral election.
Yeah.
Idiot. You got more chance of getting your teeth
Well, and
fixed.
good for reform if it happens quickly.
Could be.
The
But
Conservatives...
then I looked at the numbers, though. The numbers in Manchester are quite big that they have to overcome. I mean, Burnham won with about 450,000 votes, and Reform got about 50.
Yeah.
So that's quite a jump to make.
But it'll be fascinating to see what the polls start to say over the next few days in a general election scenario. Because the Conservatives definitely aren't ready. A, they don't have people in place.
No.
But secondly, they're not ready electorally because people still don't trust them, funnily
No,
enough.
of course. And I mean, Reform have got still quite a big mountain to climb, but you know, it's all the game's up to play for now.
Well, it is. And later on, we're talking about the whole kind of restore reform dynamic again.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're running in Manchester as well, aren't they?
yes, they have said they will. But actually, you know, I was.
But they did pretty badly.
Well, I was with you the other night on the Dan Wootton show,
Yeah.
which was kind of when you left, I ended up kind of 3 against 1.
Well, that's kind of where I was.
Having
Yeah.
a bit of a pop.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it funny on that show? The most sensible one was the Green Party. Member.
Yes, I know. Well, the thing is, Conor Tomlinson was telling me that they'd already been speaking to him early doors and they'd already got more than 10% of the vote.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who was telling him that because they never got there.
They got 6.
They got 6.7.
They got 3,000 votes. Yeah. And I did say to Orla and to Connor, you know, if you get less than 10%, it's a failure, isn't
That's
it?
what I
You've
said.
thrown the kitchen sink
Yeah.
at it. Money, people, you know, your 100,000
Yeah.
members have all pretty much all been up there.
Yeah.
But of course, they wouldn't acknowledge that a 6% turnout for Restore was a failure.
Yeah.
But they did think it was a failure that Reform
Right.
got 35%
Exactly.
of the vote.
Yeah, and they've got this other sort of slightly weird dynamic where they switch it from, oh, we never said we were going to win, which they actually did.
Yeah.
And it goes back down to, oh, we've only been going for 4 months.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
well, we've only been going for 4 months and we got 27 million views.
Exactly. So it just shows you
So
that.
go check that out.
So we better get Lembit on. I
You
guess.
better had.
Yes. Well, thank you
Yes,
very much indeed.
the voice of reason.
Yes, for your wrap
He's
up.
never been described as that before, by the way. But, you know.
And let's see what happens over the next 24 hours. Back from
Yeah.
banging show again, no doubt.
I
Tomorrow,
know.
7
Listen,
o'clock.
yeah. Well, I'm hoping there'll be a few more resignations, every one a week at least.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Rachel
I guess
Reeves
so.
next.
Yeah. Well, let's see. But he's going to placate the party, isn't he? I guess by saying that he's gone. And let's see what Andy Burnham has to say later on.
Yeah.
But look, maybe it will settle. I mean, importantly for the economy and the markets. I know Andy Burnham doesn't care about the markets.
No.
He says he's literally stuck.
Well, the
two
pound
fingers
hit an
up
all-time low this morning.
Well, and on Friday, gilt yields, which is
Yeah.
the kind of barometer of the economy, shot up
Yeah.
on the prospect of Burnham becoming Prime Minister, because, of course, he'll spend, borrow, and so on. But, look, let's see what happens over the course of the day. Right, look, Mike Graham there. Thank you very
Gonna
much.
be fun.
Right. It is.
Have a good one.
What a time to be alive, and what a time to be hosting a show like this on UK Live. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already, many of you have. In fact, last week, the subscriber numbers to UK Live doubled. I think we ended up with about 75 or 80,000 views last week, which was fantastic. Yes, please do subscribe and make sure that you come back to us and get notified on a regular basis of all the clips and all the other stuff that's going on. And of course, the man that was in the hot seat on Friday was this chap who's about to sit down, so you can't put him in camera because he's being really, really slow. Come on, Lembit.
I'm here.
Come on, I can waffle on for a little bit longer if you want, if you need a bit more time. Don't forget your balloon. Good morning to Lembit Opic, who held the fort on Friday. Thank you very much. How did Friday go?
Much better than usual.
I thought you were going to say much better than you.
Well, I was going to say that. I just added an extra syllable because I realised that
Because
was
you
rude.
had second thoughts as it came out of your mouth. I zoomed in for 5 or 10 minutes, didn't I, on Friday? So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Just checking up on me.
Me
weren't you?
guesting on what is technically my own show. That's very weird. Very weird. No, well done. You had Andrew Eborn on, so that was good fun. You're quite the double act, you two, actually.
It was great fun. Really enjoyed it. And thanks for letting me stand in. You were doing important political work.
I was at Essex County Council doing stuff, which I won't bore you with, but basically, yeah, saving Essex from the clutches of local government reorganisation at huge expense. So yes, that's exactly what I was doing. Right, let's talk about, there's some news about today, Lembit. Which has completely driven a cart and horses through our schedule, because we had all sorts of wonderful things lined up, lots of alternative news, new news, stuff that perhaps was buried deep in the papers. I might actually give you a bit of a flavour of that, really, just because we're probably not going to talk about it for the rest of the show now. So let me just give you a flavour. This is what they used to say in the game shows of the 70s. This is what you could have had. Ready? This is what you could have had. So we were going to talk about weather warnings. We should talk about that very briefly, because there is a weather warning. It's what we used to call summer. Do you remember in the 70s and 80s, we used to call hot weather summer.
It's a crisis.
Summer. But now, I mean, it's going to be hot. It's going to be bloody hot. It's going to be 38 degrees, apparently. But this is exactly the sort of weather, Lembit, that we fly thousands of miles and at great expense as a population of this country to find. We go to southern Spain, or we go to the Canary Islands or the Caribbean if you're particularly well-heeled. Why do we get so concerned about that weather now being here? Which means we just saved a load of money. We don't have to go away on holiday.
Because it's idiotic fakery. This is one reason Starmer's had to go. He's gone along with this.
I actually tweeted about it this morning, got 5-figure response already by now, because the mainstream media want to remind you that we're in a climate crisis Because if they didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. That's the thing.
It's kind of control, isn't it? If it's not COVID or Ebola, it's climate change and the fact that, these summers that you relish by going away to Spain every year to find 38-degree heat, the fact that it happens here is apparently a bad thing. The royal family about to disclose their taxes. How do you feel about that? I mean, I don't think I care particularly what Prince William and King Charles
I work as
pay.
hard as they do. And I don't mind paying their tax if I had their money.
Yeah. But do we need to know?
Well,
why do we need to know? Who cares?
I'm a vague royalist because I actually think it's good for the tourism.
Transparency, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but it doesn't really matter, does it? You can resent being that they're as rich as that, but on the other hand, I wouldn't want their life.
But it's going to do that, though, isn't it? So all of those on the left, the Antifa lot and the Green Party are going to now start slating the royal family because, of course, look, King Charles owns the Duchy of Cornwall, so he owns land and farms and companies that produce everything from, I don't know what, milk to cookies to, whatever else. The Duchy is a brand. So he's going to have paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds worth of tax on an annual basis. All it's going to do is trigger the left to say we should get rid of the monarchy, this is terrible, it's back to the feudal times, we're all equal, maybe all of his money should be equally distributed across the rest of us. We're going to get all that nonsense.
Well, privately, he'd say, well, it doesn't really matter how much I pay because I don't carry cash.
What's that, a Stephen Hawking impression?
I knew Stephen Hawking. He died of the same disease as my father did, so feel bad about that motor neuron disease.
That's not fair.
But okay, well, had to recover after you criticised my King Charles.
You can tell he's an ex-politician. It hits me with the lowest blow he possibly can in retaliation.
I could have gone lower. The thing is, King Charles can pay tax and he will pay millions, but he's not motivated by money. He's also a prisoner. And the worst thing is, he's related to Andrew. There's nothing you can do about that.
I heard a rumour the other night where I was chatting to someone that, let's just say, in a former life was a royal correspondent, that King Charles is much more ill than we think he is.
I hope he isn't. I like King Charles. When I was a Member of Parliament in Wales, he used to come up there quite a lot for various official events. And I have to say he was very agreeable. He totally buys the Kool-Aid on the climate emergency, and that's a bad thing because
it does. He's Aston Martin. I mean, this is tragic, and actually, I mean, it's the Aston Martin kind of pedigree should be sacrosanct. But he's turned his Aston Martin engine into something that runs on, I think, potato peelings and old wine.
Potchin, you can drink that.
Yeah, I mean, absolute sacrilege.
I don't mind that too much because
he's a climate zealot. He's an Miliband of the royal family.
The issue is that he seems to have infected his useful son with the same idea.
Yeah.
And so my bigger criticism of him is that he's going along with anti-scientific nonsense. But I am a royalist. I think that they do good for the country. And I don't mind him paying tax. I don't care about knowing the tax. It doesn't make me any richer.
We're going to move fast on this stuff just so that we've done it, just so I don't get shouted at by Elena. Talking of science, kids' gender clinics, a revelation in the newspapers today that children as young as 6 are on waiting lists for NHS gender clinics in England. There are 4,079 kids waiting to be seen at 3 specialist clinics which provide support for young people in distress, big inverted commas, about their gender identity. Can I just suggest that if you're a parent that thinks that your child should go to a gender clinic because they feel that as a boy they're a girl or a girl they're a boy, it's your parent, that your job as a parent to make sure that you see them through that phase. And I'm not saying that trans tendencies are not a thing. Clearly they are, and as far as I'm concerned, live and let live. But at 6 or 7 or 8 years old, I would suggest very strongly that if you're a parent that encourages the change of gender of your 6-year-old, that it is tantamount to child abuse.
When my 4-year-old went to the school just to matriculate, the teacher bent down and said, "So what's your name?" She said, "Insect." Should she have species realignment? That's what kids do. They talk this stuff. The worst thing is, this is part of the ideology that I hope now goes because Starmer's going. You had a 4-year-old excluded from school in the north of England for transphobia. They can't spell it for sure. I doubt they know what it is.
Yeah,
and what really bothers me is 98.5% plus of the population knows who and what they are. And you do not need to infect people's intellect and children at a young age.
And I think in some cases you've got parents who I think have mental health issues themselves extending those mental health issues through their kids in terms of the way they encourage them to be transgender. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the Hollywood dynamic, the amount of Hollywood stars that have kids that are trans, it is wildly disproportionate. And I would suggest that they think it's a kind of fashion thing. It's kind of cool and trendy to have your girl dress up as a boy or your son dress up as a girl. And as I say, I'm being very clear that, as far as I'm concerned, if you're an adult that's trans, good luck to you. Do what you like, as long as you don't impose it on me and your silly pronouns. But when it comes to children, I feel very, very strongly that kids are kids, and at 6 years old, they should not be dropped off at the Tavistock clinic to have gender realignment.
Here's a dark stat for you. 1 in 8 Labour MPs claims not to be straight. That doesn't represent the country, but it could be a clue to why we have this endless diet of propaganda.
Yeah.
Sex is important, but it's not key to life itself. Yeah. And I think a lot of these people are running away, and it's really dangerous. I actually think it's child abuse to get these kids to start taking puberty blockers because they saw something on TV that confused them.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to Starmer, because that is the story of the day, story of the year, actually. The fact that we've had, our 6th Prime Minister resign in 7 or 8 years. Looks like Andy Burnham is lined up to take the crown. I think it will be a coronation. I don't think there'll be a contest. I think lots of deals have probably already been done over the weekend. So it will be a coronation, which maybe that's good for the country in terms of settling anxiety amongst the electorate, the public, and particularly the economy, the housing market, the stock market, do you think?
No, doesn't really make any difference, because Burnham wants a few weeks, probably a couple of months, to get things sorted out. He himself has implied he needs to be in position by the Labour conference, and that's right. That was obvious. I even predicted that on my own show before he resigned. So he needs a little bit of settling time. There's a lot of negotiation to be done there, because there are still some residual loyalists for Keir Starmer who he needs to make sure aren't going to stab him in the back. Because now Labour's going to be bitter. The ones who lose their jobs, presumably including Rachel Reeves, the non-chancellor who's already missing in action, they'll be resentful of this. And also there's this dignity point, which I don't really care about, because Starmer showed no respect for the country. But I would have said, Burnham would say, just finish the term, wait till you get to the summer recess, and we'll sort out the rest after that. In terms of the election, they can have it or not have it. Everybody knows Burnham's going to win it, because Burnham will look in the camera, look at the people and say, I proved I can beat Reform UK.
Do you think that the Labour Party hierarchy will seek to have an election for the leader because it looks good and somehow gives Burnham a semblance of mandate? Because don't forget, Burnham is not a man that was even a member of Parliament when this government took office. So he has not put his name to the manifesto under which they got elected, even though I would argue that most of that manifesto hasn't been carried out in real terms over the last 2 years anyway. But do you think that Burnham will be desperate for some kind of recognition that the Parliamentary Labour Party at least support him, if not even the country, by way of a mandate? Do you think that's why they might have an election as a leadership election?
Yes, the first, no to the second. He will want to have that authority, but he already has, because 200 plus Labour MPs have said they're willing to sign his nomination form. That's pretty much over half the party. In terms of the second thing now, they don't want the mess of this. When I became leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats, it was a totally bloodless handover at the time. I think it was the same, I can't remember what happened after I finished. They wrecked the party, because unlike Starmer, I made the party the most successful it was in Britain. Starmer's done the opposite for Labour, I think. But he doesn't need this election. It's a distraction. It's also quite costly. And inevitably there'll be mudslinging. Burnham doesn't want that. As soon as you become a party leader, things begin to rust. You can't help it. And he doesn't want the rust to start any earlier than it has to.
Keir Starmer, I think, is talking about a new leader being in place, I think, by the summer recess. We've got a couple of clips later, haven't we?
Yeah, can we play Starmer's resignation?
Yes, let's first of all play the joy, the celebration, with me with a big smile on my face. This is Keir Starmer resigning.
I'll play the Starmer alert, maybe my last chance.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first, That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess.
Okay, there's Keir Starmer then exerting a sigh of relief across the 70 million people that make up Great Britain. He's going, not quite gone yet. He's going to hang on until Andy Burnham or somebody, depending on what happens at the top of the Labour Party insofar as an election, until Burnham or somebody becomes the new leader of the Labour Party and therefore Prime Minister. Leader of the Reform UK Party, Nigel Farage, has tweeted to say, "Reform demands an election, and we are ready to deliver radical change. If Labour thinks it can shove another professional politician into number 10, it has another thing coming." Read my second essay to Britain, which I won't read out, but it's on X if you want to see that. So Nigel Farage being very, very clear that he says that we should have an election because of this change of Prime Minister. And funnily enough, Nigel Farage is not the only person that said this. Mike Tapp, who is a Labour MP, the MP for Dover, and also an immigration minister, very surprisingly last night on X said the same thing. So within his own party, knowing what's about to happen, that there would be a change of leader, he has said, as a Labour member, Labour MP, there should be a general election.
There's only one statistic that matters, and this statistic will absolutely determine 100% whether there's an election or not, and that's Labour's poll rating. If Labour's at 40% in the polls, there'll be an election. If they're at 20% in the polls, there won't be. And the one person who makes this decision is Andy Burnham, who will be the next Prime Minister. That's all that matters here. The exception to the rule was, of course, Rishi Sunak, who's probably told by the World Economic Forum to have the election because no sane politician would have done what he did.
But won't Andy Burnham be under the same kind of influence
Less so.
from the WEF?
I don't think he's so influenced. And also, obviously, the WEF wanted a change at the top of Britain. Conspiracy theory? Yes. But Burnham isn't going to do that. Couple of reasons. Number one, Burnham can actually be the Prime Minister just by surviving for longer than Keir Starmer. He's guaranteed 3 years. If he doesn't hold an election. The second thing is his local constituency branches will say, look, we're not ready. We can't have the risk. OK, sure, you won this great result in Makerfield in the by-election over Reform, but we don't think we can do that because we haven't got you as our candidate. And to that extent, Nigel Farage is playing it smart because probably lots of Labour seats will will be won by Reform. Exactly why Burnham won't go early.
25,000 people in Makerfield have effectively decided the direction of this country.
That's right.
That's what's happened. I mean, it really is a kind of glitch in our democratic process, isn't it?
Not necessarily. If you take the party politics out of it, Britain, I think, will be in much better shape with Andy Burnham. I'm not Labour, but he's just a more intelligent person.
Do you think he might have a little bit more polish? Maybe he might have a bit more integrity than Keir Starmer, but he will also seek to push the country via the Labour Party even further to the left, won't he?
I don't think so. I think that's a misunderstanding.
I hope you're right.
I was an MP with him, and I got to know him well. And actually, I've worked with him since then in lobbying and so forth. He isn't hard left. That's not his problem. If he's left to his own devices, he'll do a reasonably good job. And you can ask people who aren't Labour in Manchester what they think. They might say, well, I'm not Labour, but he's all right. The problem he's got is his own hard-line parties and the unions.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, we put you in there, Andy, you will now do what we say. And that's where the stress rises.
So one of the huge challenges he's going to have, I mean, apart from fighting against Ed Miliband and Ed Miliband's mad climate zealotry at great cost in many, many respects, the other issue he's going to have is welfare reform and the fact that we're now spending 330 billion pounds a year on welfare, which actually now is more than the total income from income tax that the government receives. There's going to be huge pressure, I mean, morally, I would say, but certainly fiscally, to reverse that and to start cutting the welfare bill. But Labour backbenchers aren't going to allow him to do it, are they?
That's right, because they'll lose votes. And remember, Labour's desperately bruised because of the total incompetence of Starmer. Remember, he didn't actually win the last election. He got 2/3 of the electorate voting against him. And of those eligible to vote, he got 20% of the poll.
Yeah.
But he got the landslide because of the weird electoral system. To that extent, there are four things he's got problems with. The welfare bill that you've just described. International policy, because Starmer's totally ruined our credibility with that. Thirdly, he's got the left-leaning politics of people like Ed Miliband. And fourthly, specifically, this climate nonsense. It's impossible to overstress how much damage this climate crap has done to our country.
The problem of Angela Rayner, who also, when it comes to such things as tenant rights, worker rights and so on, is also going to want to lurch left.
Except when they apply to her, of course.
Yeah. So just quickly, let me just read you what Sadiq Khan has said, because of course he wants to get in on the action, doesn't he? Keir Starmer has been a friend and colleague for over 3 decades, ever since our time as young lawyers. He is a man of great integrity. Really? Sorry, let me just read that again. Sorry. Sadiq Khan says, Keir Starmer is a man of great integrity.
It's an ironic, this can't be real.
But this is maybe a man with no integrity trying to pretend that there's a friend of his.
He's got as little integrity as Khan.
He's devoted much of his career to public service. Keir Starmer has made a huge contribution to the Labour Party and our country. Yeah, I think we'd all disagree with that, certainly the latter bit. I want to thank him, blah, blah, blah. Hang on, let me just whiz through some of this nonsense. He's brought National Rail Services to public ownership. Yeah, OK, this is the most boring tribute ever. Meaningful changes, blah, blah, blah. We still have half the parliamentary term left. Yes, we know that. Here we go. The local election results showed that people are impatient for the change that was promised. Wow. So what Sadiq Khan is saying here, that the Labour Party got absolutely eviscerated on May the 7th in the local elections because they weren't going far or fast enough. Wow. Sadiq Khan, do you really think that?
Ridiculous.
We still had, right, fine, let's just read this very quickly. This should be the focus. It is also crucial that the new Labour leader invests in every part of the UK. This includes London, which is central to delivering, because his 10 billion quid budget isn't enough, Lembit. The rest of the country, you must use the potential of our capital to boost the national economy. So basically, this is just a party political statement on behalf of the Sadiq Khan party to try and get more money for London.
No, it's deeper than that. Sadiq Khan, believe it or not, actually harboured hopes of being the leader of the Labour Party himself. Can you believe it?
God help us.
Now he's trying to suck up to Burnham, who's streets ahead of Khan's abilities. But Khan just is basically putting his hand up saying, oh, don't forget about me. I'm going to be your ally. And he's terrified of Reform UK.
Yeah, OK. Can we just play? I know we've got a guest waiting, but we're going to have one of those shows, I think, today where it's all a little bit kind of here and there. Can we just play the official clip that I think Jay from the In-Betweeners was involved in with regard to Keir Starmer's resignation last night?
Oi, it's Keir Starmer's gaff. Starmer wanker! Resign, wanker! Are you going to resign, wanker? Never mind bus wankers. Is this wanker going to resign today? Oi, wanker! You going to resign? Move the fuck out of my way. Is the wanker coming out to resign this morning? He's just doing makeup, lad. He should be out shortly.
I have taken the difficult decision to resign today because I am fucking shit. Rishi was right during my election campaign, and you gullible fucks voted for me. No doubt you'll do the same when Andy positions himself as a candidate.
Brain wanker! None of you Labour sicko fights are capable. Just wait, wanker, and see what happens at the next general election.
Well, that was a clip and a half. A bit fruity. You wouldn't get that on Good Morning Britain, would you?
Good morning, Britain.
Good morning, Britain. Yes, sorry. So I'm so
You're
excited
Clouseau
today, I
now.
can't get my words out properly. Let's talk to Catherine Blakelock now, who joins us. Now, Catherine is founder of the Brexit Party back in 2019, but not a Reform member anymore. So, of course, the Brexit Party became Reform, but you're no longer part of it, Catherine.
I was never a member of the Reform Party because obviously it was the Brexit Party. It's just the same number, but yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
So I obviously am with Rupert Lowe now.
Okay, well, let's just first of all get your reaction to the joyous morning that this is, which is Keir Starmer, the worst Prime Minister in British history, resigning. What's your reaction to that?
Very pleased, and I thought the last clip was just amazing. I actually think that it is the sort of the whole thing with which what I was coming on to talk about with the Makerfield by-election was that was sort of held on almost the wrong ideas from everybody except for Labour, because the joy from many people, including from your programme, as well as myself and many other people across the country, sort of summarises why that result happened. And it was quite clear that you had voters from almost every party voting for Andy Burnham just to get rid of Keir Starmer.
So it wasn't really a Labour victory, was it? I did tweet this, and the tweet went a little bit viral with lots of lefties piling in saying that I was wrong to say that Labour didn't win Makerfield. Well, of course, Labour as a badge did win, but my point is that the reason that people voted for Andy Burnham was A, because of his personal vote, and also because they knew that by voting to vote Andy Burnham in would mean that Keir Starmer would go. So it was hardly a validation of the Labour Party's record as a government over the last 2 years. I mean, that's exactly what happened in Makerfield, isn't it?
Correct. I don't think it was a validation of anything. I mean, what the really interesting thing that happened on that day was how the Conservatives dealt with Aberdeen South and just wiped out everybody. That was even not talked about. And, effectively, they've got the same policy on oil and gas as Reform and Restore, or and climate change, etc. But so I think the result was disappointing for Reform. It was disappointing for Restore. It must have been catastrophic for the Greens and the Conservatives. I mean, I think the Conservatives lost their pot deposit. Liberal Democrats were just a disaster. And the main focus, which I think that if anybody had looked at it a month out, I went canvassing about a month out, and I just meant, we love Andy. We love Andy, and we hate Starmer. I mean, those were the two things that you kept on hearing again and again and again. So,
yeah. Even though what's odd, Catherine, is that Andy Burnham didn't actually campaign on the basis of policy or vision, did he? No. He didn't talk about what he's going to do if he became Prime Minister. And maybe he was trying to be, I don't know, less presumptive on the basis that, of course, just because you become MP for Makerfield doesn't automatically mean you become Prime Minister of Great Britain, albeit that that's his intention. So, look, maybe he was kind of pulling his punches a little bit, but he hasn't talked at all about what he would do on welfare or defence or the economy or indeed immigration and crime, all of the things that really affect us all, the things that we are disaffected by and that are making the headlines in newspapers and on news show left, right and centre. So, he gets elected with 55% of the vote without actually saying what he's going to do. Now, Lembit and I were just saying that, of course, he wants a period of time now to, I guess, put a campaign together, put a kind of manifesto together. But the thing is, the Labour government were elected on the previous manifesto. One would imagine that he's got to nail his colours just to the Keir Starmer policy mast, doesn't he, and actually enact the manifesto by which the Labour government were elected in July 2024.
Well, I think the way Labour's behaved, that they will do anything. I mean, you know that 2 days ago, before the Manchester mayoral elections, they changed the voting system. So I don't think Labour feels that they need to have anything to do with the manifesto. I mean, it was quite clear as well with Labour people who were quite different from the voters, who were, I met a pile of them, like we want massive nationalisation, etc. That was not what the voters were saying. But I think the other thing that's interesting about Makerfield was that, and I think both Restore and Reform got this wrong, and I'll say that even though I'm Restore, this was a presidential election. They were voting for Bill Clinton, an extremely popular person as well. I mean, really popular. And then we had two local candidates. So two parties were treating it as though we were sort of just, some just by-election in Aberdeen South and we'll put up a plumber or whoever.
And we all know what happened to Bill Clinton. I wonder who will be the new Monica Lewinsky in your little scenario there, Catherine. Tell me, why did Restore do so badly in Makerfield? You only got 6% of the vote.
Well, I think for the reasons we've just talked about. Lots of people said, both from Labour and from Reform, there were no Conservatives, so that was also really interesting, never saw a Conservative, was that they really liked our policies. And they agreed with the policies. And I think that was why we saw the canvassing showing different numbers, because when people actually went, they realised they were voting for just one thing, for Keir Starmer. They weren't voting on policies, They weren't voting for reform. They weren't voting for Robert or Rebecca or anything else. They were simply voting on one issue. And I don't even know that they were actually, I mean, many of them liked Andy Burnham. It was quite clear. I mean, I've never been anywhere where we love Andy, we love Andy. I've never been to a place like that. It was quite extraordinary.
But at one point, Catherine, there were people within Restore.
Yeah.
I was on a show, actually, on the Dan Wootton show, with a lot of Restore members stroke sympathisers, shall we say. And there was talk, I mean, all the way up to polling day, that Restore was saying that they could win it.
Yeah, well, they were showing 20% plus in canvassing. In some areas, they were showing more than that. I think that was a couple of things. Number one, well, three things. Obviously, as I've just spoken about, the Starmer-Burnham effect, which is what this presidential election was about. Number two was the fact that many voters, many people who were canvassed agreed with the policies, but they did it to, they agree, but at this time we can't vote for you. So they said one thing and did something else. And then the third thing was, I think after the success in Great Yarmouth, there were people who were too bullish. So, I accept all of that.
So what's the future for Restore?
Well, I think obviously we're just going to plough on. I think that the real thing is, our policies on all sorts of things, whether it's deportations or halal or having British-only people in elections, a death penalty, grooming gangs. I think these are really important. I think that if we can push the Overton window right, that's really important. I think there's a bit of a pincer movement going on between, in the middle between reform and the Conservatives on one side and Restore on the other side. And I agree, it's a mess. I actually don't think Andy Burnham is going to hold an election because I don't think the polls will look good. I think he could see as well strategically maybe Restore will gain over time, and so that would be in his favour. I could also see that he might try and extend the term and change us back to a 7-year term and go for 20 to 31. That would give him a really long time. So those are sort of or change the system, and again that will depend on the Greens, whether he decides that he can get a coalition of the left. That just depends.
Catherine, God help us. I can't think of anything worse. I mean, I think Andy Burnham will be worse than Starmer, who has himself been awful. But it takes us to a whole different stratosphere of hurt economically, socially, and culturally, in my opinion, if we end up with a Labour Green coalition. Are Restore ready for a general election? So could you field 650 parliamentary candidates if there was an election called in the next 3 months?
No, we couldn't, but we certainly could field 100, I think, with ease.
Okay, and that's what you do. So you'd focus on 100 seats that you think you can win.
Well, I'm not obviously it's not making that policy. But that
Alistair Harrison isn't he?
I'm not even Alistair Harrison does most of the administration, but obviously Rupert is very involved in leading the party in what he does. So
you're in a former life, I think you were a financial trader, Merrill Lynch,
correct,
as I understand. Can you talk to us quickly?
Also,
talk to us quickly then about the financial markets, because I know Andy Burnham has said, I don't care about the bond markets, I don't care how the economy of the UK is priced in terms of his perception by them, or in terms of what he decides to do by way of policy. What do you expect the markets to do, and gilt yields in particular? So we should, in fact, you're probably better off explaining what a gilt yield is and why it's important to the economy as a kind of measure of how healthy things are. What do you just explain what they are first, but then just tell us what you think is going to happen.
Long-term interest rates. So it determines what our long-term interest rates. We have the 10-year and the 30-year, but it's basically interest rates. So the Bank of England can pump money in and hold the front end, i.e., very short-term interest rates down. But basically, we've just got massive debt. We owe everybody money, which has been issued by bonds, and we have to finance it, and we keep on interest rates go up, as we saw with Liz Truss. And every party is going to have this problem. This is just the Zimbabwean problem. that the entire country carries on with.
But do you think, Catherine, I guess my question is, sorry to cut across you, but my question is, do you think the markets are going to react favourably
Yes.
or
No.
unfavourably to Andy Burnham?
Unfavourably. And again, it just depends. If he starts on nationalisation of water, every time he does it, we will have a bigger and bigger problem. And I actually think it is going to be eventually the finance that just blows us into smithereens. That
Or
makes
cap in hand to the IMF like Dennis Healey did in 1976.
yes,
Catherine
or,
Blakelock,
or
thank
maybe
you.
much worse than that. Thank you.
No, I've got to say goodbye because Lembit wants to get a word in edgeways, as always. No, thank you very much indeed. Pleasure speaking
Thank
to you.
you.
And I'm sure you'll be back on this show very, very soon. Catherine Blakelock there from Restore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Before you go, Lembit, your comments?
Couple of clarifications. First one is Restore, her analysis isn't right. I've been involved in politics 40 years. Restore got it wrong because they weren't training their people to canvass properly, and there's a confirmation bias. They think, and this is a problem for all parties, they think if someone says, yeah, I really like your candidate, that's a vote. It's not. Unless somebody says they're definitely voting for you, they probably aren't. And they thought they were going to get 25% because they had inexperience. That actually affected the Reformed people as well. The second thing is, I don't think that she's right about the economic situation. Everyone's going to wait and see. If I'm right and he's moderate, and Andy Burnham, and he doesn't sell out, then there's going to be better. But
He'll be very careful not to do a Liz Truss. So he'll be very careful to make sure that he does things that are costed. The problem with Liz Truss was that she came straight out the blocks and decided to do things that, in my view, were politically right and correct. When I say right, I mean correct, but didn't cost them. So the markets got spooked because they were worried about borrowing, the cost of borrowing and so on. Burnham, I suspect, will come out with a whole bunch of left-leaning policies, perhaps particularly around nationalisation, as he said, closer ties with the EU, etc. He'll do that, but I suspect he will cost it with tax rises.
yes,
Which the city will be okay with.
He probably will, and the city won't really care. But like Liz Truss, Andy Burnham's got problems because there's a cabal that doesn't want him to be very successful. They're people who don't really care about the next election. Overall, though, the majority of Labour MPs are terrified of losing their seats. And they think that Andy Burnham's the great hope to beat Reform UK. Reform is the new kid on the block, and nothing has vaccinated the Labour Party against Reform's advance until Andy Burnham came along. He took a big risk, Burnham. He went into essentially Reform UK friendly constituency, and it was all or nothing. If he'd lost that, that was it. He would been doomed to be mayor for the rest of all time. But he won. And now he can come down to Parliament. He's on his way down while we're talking. And he'll say, I am the antidote to Reform UK. But I still don't think he's going to go early on the vote, whatever people say.
No, I don't think he'll have that courage because I think he knows that even if he ends up with a honeymoon bounce because he's Andy Burnham and he's not Keir Starmer, it won't be enough, certainly to get a majority. And he already has a majority, so why not stick with it? Albeit many will say, like Mike Tapp, one of his own MPs, that he doesn't now have a mandate. Well, Lembit, I think we're saying goodbye to you. I'm
Really?
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, only because there's someone much more important
Better.
and
That's better.
aesthetically more pleasing than you.
Well, you can't sack me, I resign. Who didn't say that?
Yes. Well, that's exactly the thing, isn't it? No, albeit Keir Starmer has had, I don't know however many cabinet members go in his reign over the last 2 years, none of them have been sacked. When are we actually going to get to a prime minister, a leader of a party that starts sacking people for being either useless or having no integrity or finding out something about them that's undesirable? Why do they have to resign? Why can't we just sack people?
When we got a time machine, that doesn't happen these days. I've often said, and I've said this to Nigel Farage as well, what you need is a party which is perfect for imperfect people. Because the best politicians have pretty much made any mistake under the sun. Look at Churchill. He'd never get elected now. But he was good because he'd made a lot of human mistakes. As a former leader of a party myself, I could tell when it was about time to move on. If I'd stuck for another 6 months, then I'd have been in trouble. But Starmer didn't have that sense. There are very, very few great leaders in British politics at the moment. And what we need is somebody who can look in the camera and say, look, I'm not perfect, but I'll do the best I can for you. Please forgive me for my humanity.
Do you think the public would welcome that kind of that fallibility on the basis that, it might be, I don't know, a romantic indiscretion. It might be, something relating to a business failure from 15 years ago. Do you think that the public would embrace that honesty, that humility? Or do you think that the public will and should continue to almost judge politicians to an impossible standard?
When I give the answer, it's going to be obvious. If you've been really effective as a politician, if you've really made a positive difference, they don't care about the small stuff. John F. Kennedy, he did all kinds of things behind people's backs. People didn't really care. David Lloyd George, he was not exactly abstemious. Churchill, I've already described, he lived out through the bottom of a bottle, but they delivered results. If you deliver results, the other stuff doesn't matter. But if you're impotent, a bit like Keir Starmer, then all the small stuff matters. The public want politicians that deliver, and they'll forgive the human weakness
but the
in that
problem
situation.
now is, of course, that politicians get found out by the media before they've had the opportunity to deliver. So look at Louise Haigh. Louise Haigh was one of the first cabinet members to be fired, stroke resign in Keir Starmer's tenure back in whenever it was, September, October 2024, because it turned out that she allegedly had misreported a phone that she had as stolen. She didn't have a chance to get into second gear as Transport Secretary because she was chopped straight away because of something that happened 15 years previously. I mean, you know, I don't know the exact circumstances of that particular case and whether it proves that she's dishonest and therefore not fit for office. But we've got to stop doing things like that.
Well, I think the media hasn't really helped, because as soon as you have an argument in the public eye and you're a politician, someone snaps it and it's on the front page the next day. But you're actually proving my point. No one can really say what Louise Haig's done. But Boris Johnson, full of proclivities. People say, oh, it's just Boris. Boris was never pushed out by the public. He was pushed out by his own party. And then you had, Nigel Farage, huge character. He plays to his humanity and people like it. And then there's Paddy Ashdown, the late Paddy Ashdown, leader of my party whenever I actually joined it before I became totally disillusioned with the Lib Dems. He was revealed as having had an affair. And that weekend I was on the media and his poll rating went up. They said he's just a lad because he was good at politics. Well, if you're good at politics, you don't have to be a perfect human being.
Good at politics, maybe also it depends on the personality and character of the individual.
Yes, there's an interaction, but at the end of the day, you deliver results, you get away with the rest. The greatest politician I ever met, Benazir Bhutto, she was the nearest I've ever met to a saint, but she's the exception. Most of the best politicians I know, they had the human weakness, and their humility came from making the mistakes that the rest of us make and admitting it. John Prescott was the same. He bashed somebody. Could have been a resignation issue. But once again, everyone, yay! It's two Jags and two slugs Prescott.
I think we might be hearing here the return of Lembit Opik to politics, don't you think? He's kind of laying the foundations here, I think.
I have no plans to come back in,
That
but if
means
called
nothing.
upon to serve this country, then it will be my duty to do it. If going back into politics is my crime, then, sir, I am guilty. But I'm not really planning a return just yet.
That quote rehearsed. Okay, you heard it here first on UK Live. Lembit Opik for I don't know, high office again. I would look forward to that very much.
Who knows?
I have a high regard for you, sir, particularly now that you've shaken off the shackles of the yogurt-knitting Liberal Democrats, because you're certainly not that. Right, well, thank you very much
See
indeed.
you soon.
We've got a new guest in a second, but are we going to do some melts or some clips, Elena?
We
Shall
have
we?
a clip of...
Play what you like, because it's one of those shows, isn't it? Shall we all just leave it up to Elena to be appropriate in her clip choices?
Oh, Jesus, what a shout.
Go.
Was that appropriate?
That's fine. I mean, that literally just happened pretty much about an hour and 15 minutes ago when Keir Starmer actually resigned. I don't want to play the sensible resignation clip, really, because I think there's far funnier clips that we can play throughout the next few minutes. Let's do that, shall we? Let's play another one.
Has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
That's a bit like the Mike Graham and UK Live studios about an hour and a half ago. I was literally walking in from Victoria because the tubes were messed up, listening to the coverage of Keir Starmer about to resign, the lectern being wheeled out outside Downing Street and everyone getting very, very excited. Well, particularly me, that meant only one thing, which is that Keir Starmer was about to fall on his sword. And what you saw there was a parody that reflects, I think, how almost probably the entire nation, apart from a few train drivers and nurses and Labour Party members, that's how many of us, if not all, feel today that Keir Starmer has just resigned. You can see behind me, actually, if I go like that, I bought balloons in. So the reason I bought balloons in is because they were the only party-type paraphernalia that I could find walking between Victoria and Vauxhall here, and I was determined. I went into about 6 different shops, by the way, determined to find something. What I really wanted was a kind of party hat and maybe some streamers, and you know those party poppers that you actually pop and they kind of explode out with streamers. That's the look I was going for. But in the end, all I could find was 3 balloons. But at least I made a bit of an effort. But hopefully this will show you how we feel here, or certainly how I feel, presenting this show at UK Live with regard to Keir Starmer having resigned. And of course, he will be out, replaced, no doubt. We'll see if there's a coronation or not. Burnham as Prime Minister by the summer recess, Keir Starmer says, so which is mid-July. So not very long to go indeed. I'm joined now by another guest, Jess, who's returned. And I think this is my first return, apart from Limbit, of course, this is my first returning guest. This must mean that things are going very, very well, Jess.
I'm honoured. Yes, I
and
love
you got
this
the balloon.
show. I've got the balloon, Labour Red, and congratulations, it says.
Congratulations to the country.
Yes, indeed. Thank God.
Are you happy?
He's out. I am happy, but I do worry for the state of the country now, because Andy Burnham is set to be coronated as our next Prime Minister, and I don't think he's going to follow Sir Keir Starmer's mandate. The mandate that Sir Keir Starmer was elected on, I don't think Andy Burnham will follow. He wants to, renationalise water. Energy.
Rail.
He wants to bring housing back into public ownership properly. It's going to cost billions and billions and billions of pounds. And it's not the same mandate that Sir Keir Starmer was elected on. It's far more left-wing than previously anticipated. He's going to most likely flirt with rejoining the EU. This is not what this country voted for. We voted for something centre-left. Andy Burnham is not centre-left. He's a little bit further out there. We need a general election now.
And what do you think he's going to do on immigration and welfare? Do you think he'll cut immigration? He made this speech, didn't he, on Friday morning, I think, Andy Burnham, where he was talking about the indignity of asylum seekers and immigrants in HMOs, and it's been translated into this kind of narrative that means that he's going to do something about the tide of immigration, particularly illegal immigration into the UK. I don't think it means that at all. I think actually what he's advocating is kind of fluffier conditions and circumstances for asylum seekers.
Softer borders, softer entry requirements. I think a lot more small boats are going to be passing over the channel because they think they'll have much more of a chance under Andy Burnham. And also, who's going to be in his cabinet? Is he going to sack Mike Tapp? Because Mike Tapp has probably been the best thing that's happened to this country for immigration since the Tories' 14 years of rule.
Well, Mike Tapp, I think, I criticise him on X quite a lot because, of course, he is not only the MP, the Labour MP for Dover, but he's also an immigration minister who doesn't seem to understand or realise what's happening to this country with regard to illegal, in particular illegal migration. We're still at 45,000 illegal boat people this year. We're on target for that. But he went up, in my estimation, significantly last night because he tweeted or X'd, posted. Can you still say tweeted? I mean, I know it's not Twitter anymore, but I'm old-fashioned. I still think it is Twitter. But he actually said on X, that balloon's never going to leave you, Jess. Look,
Go put it on the floor.
No, you can't get rid of it.
I can't get rid of it.
You've got to keep it there as part of our celebrations.
Fine.
He said in a post on X that he thinks there must be now a general election on the basis that the leader of the Labour Party, therefore the Prime Minister, is going to change. So do you think he's in trouble this morning?
I don't think he's in anyone's good books. But look, he was always a Sir Keir Starmer loyalist. And you've got to admire his tenacity for that. And to be honest, his tweet, I completely agree with. I do think it's embarrassing for our country that we've gone through so many prime ministers in a mere 7 years.
6 in 7 years, isn't it? Or 6 in 8 years, something like that.
Something like
Burnham
that.
will be the 7th, I think, this decade.
It is embarrassing. What other country goes through leaders as much as we do?
Yeah.
It just, for the markets as well, how can we be seen as this trustworthy, strong presence that we used to be associated with? We're nowhere near that now.
Should we have a look at the markets? Let's just see what they're doing, shall we? I know this isn't Bloomberg, and I'm not pretending it is, but let's just see exactly what the markets have done. In particular, the FTSE 250, which is Yes, down a bit. Look, the markets, given that I suppose they expected Keir Starmer to resign anyway, are pretty stable. The question's going to be when Andy Burnham starts to reveal what he's going to do. Now, there are two things here. Andy Burnham needs to lay out his policy document, what he's going to do on particularly tax, borrowing, public spending, and all things immigration, crime, defence, and so on. So how he's going to balance a budget and what he's going to do in terms of policy. But then he's actually got to enact it. As we know from politicians of the last few years, saying what you're going to do in terms
he's
of
very
your vision
flip-floppy.
and what you actually do are two different things. But as soon as he sets out that policy document, it'll be interesting to see how the economy in the city responds. Because although some people watching this might think, well, actually, so what? How does that affect me? It really does. Because if you're about to buy a house and you're looking at a fixed rate mortgage, literally what Andy Burnham does could be the difference between you paying 6% or 4%.
Well, let's be real, it's all going to go up.
Yeah, or in housing market terms, or pension terms, in terms of you having money tied up in a pension, or the stock market. Obviously, lots of people have money invested in the stock market, including pension funds. If it all starts to go even more horribly wrong under Burnham versus Starmer economically, we will end up in a place where the country could very well go bankrupt. The housing market could crash. Interest rates could increase because inflation increases. So this Andy Burnham dynamic in terms of what he's now going to do as our Prime Minister is important to everybody. I'm afraid everything is political. You know, the price of oil and therefore petrol and therefore the cost of goods on the shelves in Tesco and Sainsbury's, it's all political.
It's just absolutely... People need to be paying much more attention to what's happening right now because the next couple of weeks are so crucial. But people really, in my opinion, they need to be calling for a general election because under Andy Burnham, tax will go up. Under Andy Burnham, we will be worse off.
What are the chances of a general election, do you think?
I don't know. I think that, look, for so many years, for almost 100 years, the Tories were Labour's main political opponent. But the Tories are so crippled right now in the polling, if they called a general election, they could wipe out their sworn enemies and they would have to deal with the new Tories, is what they like to call them, reform. But
the new Tories? Well, yeah, or the genuine small C Conservatives, I suppose you could say, that's for sure.
I should think so as well.
We get rid of the balloon.
Well, it's too distracting.
Is it? Not for me. I think it's fabulous. It's a reminder every few seconds that Keir Starmer
Is
has
out.
resigned.
Yeah.
Can we?
Why don't we put it there?
Yeah, put it here.
It's a little in my way.
Put it here. Can I put it there? There you go. Or is that no? That's
It's in the
definitely
way of your-
distracting. That's definitely distracting. Don't worry. As long as we can see the balloons behind me, which I blew up and Elena tied this morning, to ensure that there is a constant reminder on this show
Yes.
of the fact. Look, there. Look, there's Elena.
Yeah.
Everybody, wave. There she is. A constant reminder of the fact that Keir Starmer has joyously decided to resign at long last. There was, of course, a chance that he wouldn't. I mean, I did wonder if he was going to cling on. I don't know if there's a clip, isn't there, of him purporting to cling on to the door jam of Downing Street. Have we got that? Or anything else for that matter that is anything that rinses Keir Starmer.
Yeah, we've got Starmer crying.
Starmer crying. That's is this the real life him
Yes.
choking outside
Yes,
Downing Street?
it
This is very, very, very sad indeed, everybody.
And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
Yes, he's ruined the country, ruined loads of people's lives, and now expects a load of sympathy. Yes, he's just remembered he's got a wife and kids, I think, and that he is also subjected them, Jess, to humiliation. I mean, who wants to have a dad? Can you imagine being the kids of Keir Starmer? That everywhere you go, your dad's Keir Starmer,
Oh my God.
the worst Prime Minister in history. I mean, my kids get very embarrassed by me doing this and also being elected, being a politician. They don't like it at all because some of their friends, fun enough, don't necessarily agree with my politics. And I can kind of I think we're all kind of at peace with that now. I kind of get away with it. But imagine being one of Keir Starmer's children. I mean, that must be highly uncomfortable and embarrassing.
Humiliating for them.
Yeah, they're probably in hiding. Okay, so what's next then? So we probably aren't going to end up with a leadership contest. I don't think we're going to have a full-on battle.
That.
This is going to be a coronation.
Yeah, I hate that. Look, when the Tories had their leadership contest back in 2022, I remember it vividly. I voted for Rishi Sunak back in 2022 and Liz Truss got in. Like her or hate her, she did get in. And then she lasted, 28 days or something?
No, 46. Come on, give her some credit. It was literally a month and a half.
Okay, my apologies. Look, once she goes, there was no second election. There was no, they didn't go to the members. They just installed Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, which I hated. And I'd actually initially voted for Rishi Sunak. I completely hated that. And loads of people around me hated that at the time too. Totally turned them off from politics. And I really think if we're just going to install Andy Burnham, because he's popular, because he does well in the opinion polls, I think that will actually backfire in Labour's face. His opinion polls have already gone down 20 points, I think I saw. That is ridiculous. When he gets in as Prime Minister, because I think we all know he's already going to be coronated, he's going to be crowned already. Look, he is going to do abysmally. He's not going to be able to turn this country around in that term that he's got left. He is going to leave this office far worse than how he's got there. I would have much preferred to have kept Sir Keir Starmer until the end of his term than to have someone like Andy Burnham as our Prime Minister. But in Labour, what other choices do we have?
Well, I wonder if Andy Burnham will learn the lessons of Theresa May, because, of course, she did go to the country.
She had to. 9 months, 2017, she had to call the election.
And took an 80-seat majority to effectively one that
minority
was barely
of DUP.
a majority, yes, where she, had to enter into a kind of confidence and supply agreement with the DUP. Andy Burnham will be very, very concerned about that. I think it will be a test of Andy Burnham, whether he thinks that the country now
I think he's quite arrogant,
by Makerfield. Does he believe that the Makerfield election, 55% of the vote, is representative of how people in, let's say, Cornwall and Essex and North Yorkshire feel, and whether he'll be confident enough, maybe arrogant enough to go to the country, or would he think about himself and the fact that, look, if I've got to a 2029 as Prime Minister without having a mandate from the country, that's enough for me to kind of stretch my legs, do what I want to do politically, and end up with some kind of legacy. And then I guess, like most Prime Ministers do, end up in the House of Lords. You'll have a Prime Minister's salary. I think this is true, by the way. When you leave office as Prime Minister, you get a pension that is the same as the salary. So that 160-odd thousand pounds a year you get for life, including...
And we're paying it to 7 long-serving Prime Ministers at the moment.
7 times, 7 times in 10 years. Whereas in the old days, of course, of Cameron, Thatcher, Blair, Cameron, Prime Ministers would last for
10 years,
10 years or so. So that rather saves the taxpayer a lot of money, doesn't it? But yes, now we're about to be on number 7. And actually, in the next 3 years, yes, we could be on number 8 if there's a general election. So you don't think he's going to call an election?
Well, look, I think he actually potentially could do. He's very arrogant, and maybe deservedly so. He had a majority of 9.2k in the Makerfield by-election, which is a pretty good result. Fair play to him. But it's quite interesting. He didn't run on typical Labour branding. He had very good branding, some sort of cartoony style photo of him, and then vote Andy, vote Hope. There was no sort of vote Labour or any other Labour slogans. He was very detached from the Labour Party.
He didn't mention Labour on his leaflets or on any of the political signage that he used in the campaign at all.
He didn't do that once, and I think that is really quite telling.
So it's hardly a victory for Labour then, is it? And this is what I said on X.
It's more a victory for him.
Yes.
But it's the presidentialisation of our politics, right?
Yes, it is. And this is what I said on X the other day, and again got castigated by the left, where I said this is not really a Labour victory. I didn't mean Labour didn't win it. Obviously, Andy Burnham is a part of the Labour Party. My point was Andy Burnham won it based on his personal vote and his popularity. But it was also a vote by people that probably voted tactically on the basis of just wanting to ensure that Burnham got in, which therefore would then get rid of Starmer. And that is exactly what has happened. So do we owe Makerfield a debt, do you think? Or do you think that the unintended consequence, the poison chalice here, Jess, is that now we end up in 6 months' time with someone that's worse than Starmer in the shape of Andy Burnham?
I think so, definitely. You know, I am not shy about this. I totally supported Rob Kenyon throughout that entire election because I wanted to keep Andy Burnham out of office. But look, he's got in and he is going to be the Prime Minister. It is sad because this isn't a man that the country has voted for. What is it? 0.03% of the country voted for Andy Burnham to be an MP. And then he's going to be jousted into this seat of Prime Minister without any say from the public.
Yeah, we've heard from Ed Miliband. I know that this is a statement that everybody has been waiting for. Shall I read it out to you?
Yes.
Ed Miliband says, who of course is currently the Energy Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Energy Security. There's quite an irony to that title, I think. Ed Miliband no doubt will stay in an Andy Burnham government, whether he stays as Energy Secretary, let's hope not, or Chancellor, which was mooted, or something else. Maybe Foreign Secretary. I think Foreign Secretary would be good for Ed Miliband because that would mean that Ed Miliband spends most of his time out of this country. That would be good. So Ed Miliband has said in the last few minutes, Keir Starmer can be immensely proud of his achievements in bringing Labour back to power and leading 2 years in government to make Britain a fairer, stronger country, apparently. Today's statement showed the great dignity and integrity that is the mark of the man. I mean, that is absolute nonsense, isn't it? I mean, you can't say for a second that the country is fairer. It is more divided than ever. Two-tier policing, two-tier justice, and so on. Stronger? I don't think so. Our economy is in the toilet. Unemployment is up. Inflation is up versus when the Labour Party took power. We have significant economic problems, not least the fact that we're borrowing loads and loads more money. And when he talks about here, Ed Miliband, great dignity and integrity, we know that Keir Starmer has a record of fibbing, left, right and centre. So I think...
I think it's ironic.
A wonderful statement there by Ed Miliband, but none of it's true.
Well, I think it's ironic that when Sir Keir Starmer goes, he went on a U-turn as well, just to sum it all up. But look, what Ed Miliband's written there, it is just nonsense what he's written. He's fluffed it up. He's made it look all nice and pretty with rainbows and sparkles. He was one of the ones calling for Sir Keir Starmer to go. Yeah. You know, he doesn't care. He's happy. He's celebrating, just like us.
Let's just read you some other politician comments and statements. So Nigel Farage, the last half an hour, has issued a statement saying that reform demands a general election to fix broken Britain. And on the basis that Andy Burnham doesn't have a mandate. Robert Jenrick, very interestingly, has found a tweet from Andy Burnham where Andy Burnham himself says, I guess this is in the wake of Conservative Party leadership shenanigans going back to the days of, no doubt, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, and the changing of the guard that happened all too frequently under the Conservatives. Andy Burnham says here in a tweet, we need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Yes, let's see if that will be thrown back in his face now.
Definitely.
Zara Sultana, who of course I think is still an independent, didn't she lose the Labour whip, I think, Zara Sultana?
Is she not with
and then ended up part of the Your Party, but then famously didn't do very well in that relationship with Jeremy Corbyn. She says, the most emotion Keir Starmer has shown is over losing his job, not enabling the genocide of the Palestinian people. I mean, well done there, Zara Sultana, for turning everything back to Palestine. Keir Starmer makes a passionate and emotional speech mentioning his wife and kids in his resignation.
She cares about.
And she likens it to the genocide.
I can't wait for her to lose her
Palestinian people. Ursula von der Leyen. Now, I don't know who wins this in terms of the statement that I've been waiting for with anticipation more, whether it be Ed Miliband or Ursula von der Leyen. Now, she will be salivating because, of course, she knows that Andy Burnham is even more wedded to the EU than Keir Starmer, and she will therefore be anticipating with great excitement what Andy Burnham might do in terms of closer alignment with the EU. She says, it can take many leaders years to grow into the statesman that you have become, Keir Starmer, in just 2 years. Really? European and Ukrainian security is stronger because of you. What drugs is Ursula von der Leyen on that she thinks that Keir Starmer has had anything to do with security and strength? around Europe or indeed Ukraine, apart from obviously shoveling loads of our money, billions and billions of our money, about 20 billion, I think, so far, at President Zelensky for him to spend on, well, all sorts of things. What do you make of some of these comments? I mean, why can't people be honest? I mean, where are the comments from people saying, good riddance, you were useless? Is it only me that's saying that, you know, nothing has changed, by the way, in Keir Starmer's approach to running this country, socially, culturally, from a policing and a justice perspective, immigration, economy. It has been an unmitigated disaster over the last 2 years. Why can't some of these politicians, rather than issuing these pathetic platitudes, Jess, say, actually, good riddance, I'm a bit like our ticker here, glad you're gone, don't let the door hit your bum on the way out. You've been hopeless, and I'm glad that you've gone. I'm sorry that you're upset about your wife and kids, but too bad. Go, bye, good riddance, auf Wiedersehen.
Kemi Badenoch.
What's Kemi Badenoch said?
I'm going to put it on your screen now.
Right, I haven't seen this, so oh my goodness, that is too small for me to read.
No, can you read it from there?
I can read it from here. Kemi Badenoch says, look, she's copying the UK Live narrative on Keir Starmer, by the way, so she agrees with us. Kemi says, hiking national insurance, the family farm tax, giving up on real welfare reform.
Good response from Kemi Badenoch.
Not funding our defence, not drilling our own oil and gas, appointing Peter Mandelson, then lying about what happened. Britain is not ungovernable. Keir Starmer is a terrible Prime Minister, but the problem isn't just Starmer. Labour MPs only want higher taxes to hand out more benefits, as the Welfare Secretary has pointed out. When was this? This was this morning, was it? These are Labour choices and their values. So this was, I think, a post by Kemi Badenoch in anticipation of Keir Starmer resigning.
What I think of that is, look, she's fair play to her. She's actually slated Sir Keir Starmer, whereas a lot of these people in Labour have just started sucking up to him now because all of a sudden they feel sorry for him. Look, she's actually talked straight and said, look, these are the failures that Sir Keir Starmer's done. But she's saying it's not just him, it's Labour as well. But it's quite interesting. She doesn't call for a general election, but we all know the reason
and why. Do you think?
Because electorally, the Tories are done. They will be wiped out.
But they did so well in Aberdeen, Jess.
Oh, wow. One by-election, phenomenal. To be fair, that was a good result for them. It was their first win since the 1960s in a by-election,
I think it's what we call an electoral anomaly. I guess who else has already come out the blocks? I mean, it looks like this was probably prepared a day or two ago. Wes Streeting on House of Commons paper. Let's read let's read what he says. Keir Starmer led us to a general election that no one thought possible. Well, hang on, Wes, sorry. I hate to interrupt on line one here.
Nonsense.
But the reason that Labour won the general election in July 2024 is not that they won it.
The media were too nice to them.
The Conservatives lost it. We know that, right? So he kept us out of the war in Iran. Yeah, how did that go in terms of how that's then affected things ever since? Because it had an effect on the economy anyway. Has delivered real progress as Prime Minister at home. He has made the right decision to stand down as the leader of the Labour Party that he saved. After a devastating set of election results in May, the Makerfield by-election has proven that Labour can still win if we have the courage to change.
Oh.
It was a victory for unity and hope over division and hatred. It was also Andy Burnham's victory. And, oh, wow. Andy has shown what Labour can be when we are inclusive, united and in touch with the lives of the people this party was founded to represent, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, let me just filter out the nonsense, the guff. Here we go. Wes Streeting has spoken at length with Andy in recent days, the Wes and Andy show. I'm convinced that there is a place for those ideas under his leadership, that he is committed to building an inclusive party that draws on the best of our political traditions, that he can win the fight of our lives against the forces of nationalism. We could spend the summer exaggerating small differences, blah, blah, blah. We were elected to change our country, to show what politics can be a force for good, and to spread opportunity for everyone. Right. Look, there's a load of nonsense in there, but basically, Wes Streeting, a bit like Keir Starmer, goes straight for the far-right card, which is to say, all of the problems that exist in Britain got nothing to do with Labour policy or hapless Labour politicians on the front bench in government. It's all to do with nationalism and the far right, Jess.
Do you know what? I completely dismiss everything that Wes Streeting says after he summoned up all the courage to go and challenge Sir Keir Starmer, what was it, last month? And then at the last minute, he ran out with his tail between his legs like a coward. I have no time for anything that Wes Streeting says. But what I find interesting about that statement that you've just read out is he's basically saying, we're going to unite under Andy Burnham's leadership. So Wes Streeting was the only sort of other challenger I could really see to Andy Burnham. So it looks like there will be no challengers. You've obviously got Angela Rayner, Al Khan, who potentially could have thrown their hats in, but I don't think they will. I don't think there will be a leadership contest. It will just be, here we go, Andy Burnham, Bob's your uncle, you're Prime Minister now. There is going to be no democratic process, nothing.
Do you want to hear some nonsense from Rachel Reeves?
Let's go.
So Rachel Reeves in the last 30 minutes has said, I don't know, I think these are very weird tweets. She has effectively put out lots of mini statements on X, but they're all in the wrong order, I think. That was thanks to the public trial. Oh, yeah, okay, I don't know. I mean, incoherent from Rachel Reeves, as usual. She says, let me just take some snippets because these are in the wrong order based on how her assistant, no doubt, has messed up posting from Rachel Reeves' X account this morning. Our economy, apparently, is better protected from global instability. No, it's not. We were the fastest growing G7 economy at the start of the year. We've had 6 interest rate cuts, nothing to do with you. Bank of England is independent, and inflation has held steady. It's twice what it was when you inherited the government, Rachel. She also says we've achieved a lot together to be proud of. Name one thing. And there is more to do. I'm grateful for Keir's leadership and the work he has done to build a stronger, more secure Britain. The public trusted us on the economy. Yeah, didn't we? And on security. Yeah, that too. And thanks to our commitment to investing in every part of our country, in our public services and rebalancing the economy so it works for working people. I mean, again, a load of word salad guff there from Rachel Reeves, who knows that she's on the way out.
She's trying to cling on, I think, actually. But
she'll be fired immediately.
She'll be gone, banished to backbenchers. She's done nothing of real importance to this country. The only thing that she has done is her one accomplishment is being the first female chancellor. Yep. That's it. You know, there's nothing I can look back on and say, Rachel Reeves, well done, brilliant work. Nothing there at all.
Her tenure has not been impressive. Darren Jones, who of course was Chief Secretary to the Treasury, is now effectively Keir Starmer's right-hand man. And he's chief apologist, actually, which is what then brings me to his statement. Darren Jones MP, I was proud to stand on Downing Street with the Prime Minister this morning, and I'm proud of the Britain that this Labour government is working to deliver. A country where power, wealth and opportunity is shared amongst the many.
Spare me the melodrama.
And not the few. Keir Starmer brought our Labour Party back from the brink into government after 14 years in opposition. He did so because the public trusted us in the economy and on national security and because they voted for our manifesto. My party mustn't forget the lessons of our successive defeats and must remember why and how we won only 2 years ago. Whatever happens next, we can be grateful for Keir Starmer's leadership and the work his government has done to put Britain back on a path to a brighter future, apparently, Jess. We wish Keir and his family all the best, blah, blah. Let's just pick the bones out of this, right? Because Darren Jones is quite a prominent spokesperson. I think he's utterly deluded at the best of times, particularly when he makes stupid statements like this. So let's start with the first thing. So he talks about power, wealth and opportunity being shared amongst the many and not the few. Well, that's a very Marxist-like statement. And actually the translation, in my view, to what Darren Jones is saying there is effectively they have continued to chase wealth creators, entrepreneurs and business owners, employers out of Britain, right? So that's actually
Well, look at the rise of NEETs in this country. You know, so many people are unemployed. My age can't get jobs. You know, where's this wealth and power being spread out across the many? It's not happening. It's just absolute nonsense.
Good point. And certainly not with the hospitality industry is concerned either. He brought our Labour Party back from the brink into government after 14 years in opposition. But now his legacy will be that he sought to effectively destroy the Labour Party and the country and the economy. And after, whenever the next general election is, whether it's this year under Burnham or whether it's at the end of their term, I mean, Labour aren't getting elected again for another 20 or 30 years, are they?
No, I think they're absolutely finished. They're cooked. Look, when Labour got in, they knew they were getting in from, 2022. They knew the next general election, they had the chance to go in. Sorry, not even a chance, the definite likelihood of getting in. And Sir Keir Starmer had no criticism from the press before he entered number 10. He was almost revered and romanticised by the press. It's interesting now, though, that's the exact same thing that's happened to Andy Burnham. You've not really seen much criticism of Andy Burnham or his record. You know, Andy Burnham was the first person to privatise an NHS hospital, which, to be honest, look, the NHS is partially privatised anyway, but that's my point. He hasn't had any criticism for that. He hasn't had any criticism for his act on grooming gangs, on his record as Greater Manchester Police. Nothing like that. Nothing there has been criticised. It's exactly like how the media were treating Sir Keir Starmer before he got elected in 2024.
Yeah. Let's also now just discuss quickly the same old politics in Whitehall. So we heard from Keir Starmer 2 years ago that he was going to kind of drain the swamp, country first, the grown-ups are back in charge and so on. There's an allegation here that I'm seeing on social media that is Josh Simons. Now, Josh Simons is the Labour MP that was only elected to Makerfield in 2024, who then stood
Cowardly.
down at great expense to the taxpayer to allow Andy
I think
Burnham
that should be totally banned.
to allow Andy Burnham to become MP, which has happened. I tweeted over the weekend, "Arise, Lord Simons," on the basis that I suspect Josh Simons will end up in the House of Lords. But no, there is a claim, an allegation here that actually Andy Burnham is about to give Josh Simons, in exchange for standing down and letting him become MP and then PM, a plum job at the heart of Downing Street. This is exposed or suggested, alleged by the Free Speech Union. They are saying, it seems, that yes, it looks like the horse trading politics of Whitehall, a bit like Washington DC, where it's never about talent, it's never about merit, it's all about schmoozing, conniving, manipulating.
Slimy.
Burnham hasn't even been elected as by his own party as Prime Minister yet, but it looks like already the same old political shenanigans are in play.
It's so slimy. I really, really hate this. And he's not even been given the prime ministerial role yet, but he's already acting like he is. He's so arrogant. And I just really hate that he thinks, okay, this is totally acceptable for an MP to drop out before their term is finished. Oh, wait, but he did that himself. He's not even finished his mayoral term. Well, he now has, because we're going to have another election in, less than 30 days. But this is not right. You should not be allowed to finish your term early as a serving member of the public if there's no real reason. It's your civic duty that you were elected on. It's absolutely disgusting.
Right. Also, breaking news, Wes Streeting has confirmed that he will back Andy Burnham. Wes Streeting will not run for the leadership of the Labour
So
Party.
no one will run then.
This is exactly what we've been saying here on Mike Graham's show and on UK Live, and I've been saying the last 3 days on social media that deals will have already been done, probably before Thursday's Makerfield result, where those that wanted to show what integrity they had, how they wanted to change the country and do all these righteous things for Britain. As soon as Wes Streeting gets offered a job, which clearly he has been, he decides all of a sudden that integrity, that endeavour to do the right thing for Britain doesn't matter so much anymore, because he's not going to run because he knows he'll lose in exchange for a job. It says here, Wes Streeting has backed Andy Burnham for Labour leader. The former Health Secretary confirms he will not run against Andy Burnham for the party leadership. And I suspect over the next hour or two, we are also going to hear the same coming from the likes of Ed Miliband. We'll also hear, Jess, from, I would suspect, Angela Rayner and others. Yes, they're all falling in line. This is going to be a coronation, and it's not going to be a cabinet of talent like it wasn't before.
It's going to be who supports me.
It's going to be his mates that have enabled him and empowered him.
That's disgusting.
It's collusion, isn't it? Beth Rigby, of course, who's a Labour Party friend, we know that, along with her mate Kay Burley. Do you remember the night of the general election, July 2024, when it was announced that Labour had won? You could hear them whooping with delight in the Sky News studios. Beth Rigby, I suspect, again, mark my words, here's another prediction, Beth Rigby will do an interview with the Prime Minister over the next 24, 48 hours. It will be a soft, empathetic, sympathetic interview about what a wonderful statesman Keir Starmer is, the contribution he's made to Britain, the contribution he's made to the world stage. Beth Rigby's saying, Wes Streeting has fallen in behind Burnham, this just a few minutes ago, says he won't fight the leadership race. But Beth Rigby is also saying, let's see where she starts to wax lyrical about how wonderful Andy Burnham is.
And look how they're just all painting Andy Burnham as this fantastic figure. He's going to save the country. Oh, but more importantly, he's going to save Labour from their own electoral chaos waiting for them at the end of their term. It's just absolutely telling. I go back to Nigel Farage. As soon as he, as 9:38, as soon as the resignation was announced, he dropped a Substack, a long essay saying exactly why there should be a general election. And I read that essay as I was on my train up from West Byfleet up to here, and I completely agreed with everything he said. We need to have a general election instead of having all of these politicians smoothing over the cracks, making sure that everything seems all right. Oh, it's all perfect, all hunky-dory. No, it's not. We've not elected this person. Andy Burnham has no mandate, and he is going to turn this country far more left-wing than we elected him in on.
Do you think that Mike Tapp is right then, for once?
I think Mike Tapp is
But there should
Right.
be legislation
Yes.
laid that says
Yes.
if you have a change of Prime Minister, no matter what party, there has to be a
Yes.
general election.
Yes, I do think this. And people will say, oh, the Americanisation of politics. Look, because of social media, we have had an Americanisation of politics anyway. We have these personality cults around prime ministers and also political party leaders. Look, Rupert Lowe's got his own cult, Nigel Farage, Kemi Badenoch, and now Andy Burnham. The only person who really didn't have one was Sir Keir Starmer because he was so unpopular. The presidentialisation of politics has already happened. People want to rally behind a leader. They want to rally behind a brand. So yes, I do think that Mike Tapp was absolutely correct in saying that any time a leader is ousted, then there should be a general election called, because the next person, they're not going to 100% follow their predecessor's mandate, are they? They're always going to want to have their own mark, their own special touch. Andy Burnham does not want the same mandate as Sir Keir Starmer. That's clear.
We're going to go to a guest in a second, but just before we do that, let me just lay out what it looks like the timetable is. Depending obviously whether there is a contest for the Labour leadership or not. I'm assuming that there won't be. It looks like the Parliamentary Labour Party nomination stage will be completed by the 16th of July. So we've got about another 4 weeks to go. That's the last day before recess. And actually, if there's no contest, if there is no competition, and it looks like there won't be from what we're seeing from Wes Streeting already falling in behind Andy Burnham, that the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, most likely, will be in place by the 17th or 18th of July. That's a pretty quick process. Let's talk to Greg Swenson now, who is going to talk to us about Trump's prediction, or did he know a bit more than the rest of us, that last night on his Truth Social platform, he said, yes, Keir Starmer's definitely resigning in the morning. Greg, he was right, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And it's a great question, Russell, whether he knew from a phone call or a conversation with the prime minister or, he was just guessing it. It wasn't hard to guess, obviously.
Yeah. Can you see the balloons behind me? The balloons
Can I see
behind
what?
me, Greg.
Sorry?
The balloons. So we're celebrating here.
No.
We have balloons all over the place. So on the way in this morning, Greg, I was so pleased when I heard that the lectern was being brought out to the front of Downing Street, and therefore that signals Keir Starmer exiting office as Prime Minister. I was so pleased I went into a party shop and bought balloons. So we're celebrating in Britain. What do you think American politicians and Trump are going to make of the fact that Keir Starmer's resigned?
I think that they're probably thrilled. The problem is, what's coming next could be worse than Keir Starmer. So, I'm not sure the president has thought about that. And I'm sure there'll be a phone call in the near or medium term with Andy Burnham. But, I'm just afraid that, things that Burnham could even take if this is possible, take the party or the government more to the left or more to the socialist left. So, it's great news. I mean, I think he had to go. And I think that was the president's view as well, because, their relationship deteriorated in the last 6 or so months, starting with, there's a number of things, but, obviously it turned starting with Greenland for sure, but definitely culminating with the denial of the use of Diego Garcia for the attack on Iran. So, the president, I'm sure, is pleased to see Keir Starmer go.
So Donald Trump's attitude towards Starmer started off being kind of warm and friendly and bigging him up, saying, he's a decent guy. That was kind of, if we wind back about a year or so. But increasingly at various meetings, through kind of, the G7 in particular, we've seen that Donald Trump has shunned Keir Starmer, but not just subtly, but very, very blatantly. Trump has made it very, very clear on the world stage to Keir Starmer and the billions of people watching now those clips that he has absolutely no time for Starmer whatsoever. I'm not sure Starmer would have noticed. I think Starmer, as we've seen over the last few weeks and months, has rather a thick skin. But it's fair to say, Greg, isn't it, that Trump had absolutely no time for Keir Starmer whatsoever.
That is absolutely right. I mean, he just turned on him, and the president's very transactional, and you're right. He was really nice to Keir Starmer the first year. I think Starmer actually did a decent job of managing that relationship. In fact, in the first year, it's probably the only thing he did well was maintaining that relationship with the U.S. and with the president. But that just soured quickly, and once. Again, the president's transactional. Once he had decided he had no use for Starmer, he was really obvious about it. And the president, look, he's unfiltered. He's not diplomatic at all. That's not his thing. So in this case, it was kind of standard President Trump. Once Starmer made those mistakes, those really great mistakes around Greenland, but especially around the Chagos Islands, then the president just went full on and criticizing him about, the most obvious was on energy and the, mass migration or the boats. And, I think the president, while not diplomatic, he's absolutely right. And that's, not that the party, the preceding Keir Starmer was very good at those two issues. Obviously, the Conservative Party, was just as bad or worse on immigration and started this net zero nonsense years ago and really embraced it. So, there's a lot of blame to go around, but clearly, Keir Starmer was making things worse.
And you know the president very well. How do you think he's going to get on with Burnham? Because Burnham is quite a slick operator. He's actually very charismatic. He's not wooden like Starmer. How do you think those two are going to get on?
Absolutely. I think the president will give him a chance. He'll probably state the obvious, which is you have to fix mass migration and you have to liberate your energy sector. I'm not sure if Burnham can do that as long as Miliband is hanging around. So, but I think that the president will encourage him. But yeah, you're right. Andy Burnham at least has a personality. He might be a socialist, but he's obviously got some charisma, which was clearly lacking with the prime minister.
It was.
So,
Greg, do you think free speech will come up as an issue again between Burnham and Trump, as it has done between Starmer and Trump?
Definitely. I think, again, the top two are obvious, but definitely. And, free speech, Southport, the rape gangs, school choice, or the fact that labor has crushed private schooling with the tax changes, the hostility to veterans. I think that, I think he'll bring up a lot of those things. And if he doesn't, surely the vice president will, or the State Department will, as they have already. So, yeah, there's a lot to criticize. And I'm going to go with J.D. Vance here. These are all values that made both countries great. And we are close cousins. And so it's important for the U.S. It's important for President Trump.
Well, Greg, you in your country are maintaining those values. It seems that here, I'm afraid, in the UK, we have rather lost those. Do you mind if I just play you a couple of clips? I just want to show you some reaction. This is all breaking news, by the way. So we've got reaction, first of all, from those on the left that are, I guess, quite cynically fawning over Starmer now. And of course, all of a sudden now, he's a great statesman. He has a fantastic legacy. He was great for Britain and he always put the country first, which of course we all know is absolute nonsense. Let's hear first of all from Lord Hermer, who is a despicable and very sinister individual, in my opinion, because he's the man that you just mentioned where veterans are concerned there, Greg. He's the man that has led the charge to try and prosecute British armed force veterans. Let's just hear what he has to say about his very good friend Keir Starmer resigning.
The Prime Minister's speech there, he was nearly in tears at the end, talking about his kids and about his wife Vic. How are you feeling? How is he?
Well, look, I don't know about you, I thought that was a moment of extraordinary dignity from the Prime Minister, showing his true decency, the kind of qualities that I've seen actually since I've known him for 30 years, but I've seen day in, day out for the last 2 years. So I think he left the podium, walked through the door, showing the same values, exactly the same values he displayed when he walked in 2 years ago.
He talked about accepting with good grace the fact that he'd lost the support of the parliamentary party. Is that how the decision was made in the end for him?
I don't know. Look, Keir will obviously speak in due course about the kind of past few weeks and few months. That's not really what today is about. I think what today is about is recognising the decent, dignified Prime Minister we still currently have, recognising what he has achieved over the last 2 years, which is an extraordinary amount, and as a governing party, pulling together, because we've still got 3 years in power. We've got to focus on delivery for the British people.
Greg, hold your thoughts there. A lot of old nonsense from Hermer, kind of platitudes that I guess he would say that, wouldn't he? Honestly, it's very irritating how a hapless, terribly incompetent Prime Minister, within literally minutes of him resigning, all of a sudden is the most fantastic thing to happen to Britain. Let's also hear from the hapless David Lammy, shall we, in terms of what he thinks about his friend resigning.
I have known Keir Starmer for many, many years, first as a lawyer before he became a politician. I think he is a decent, good, principled man. And today we have seen in the manner of his resignation, putting the country first. And when you reflect on his legacy, lifting the Labour Party from a devastating defeat, the worst since 1935, rooting out anti-Semitism that had offended so much of the country, getting us back into contention and then in office, again, restoring our image on the world stage, and it's been a privilege to work alongside him, stabilising our economy, those waiting lists falling, small boats crossings coming down and lifting 500,000 people, young people out of poverty. That is a tremendous legacy. It's been the honour of my life to work alongside him. Everyone knows I've been very loyal to Keir Starmer, as I have every Labour leader, and I'll be loyal to the next. But today, we reflect on my dear friend's legacy. I think it's immense, and I think many people will be reflecting on that across the country.
David.
An immense legacy, apparently. Well, look, that's not what those on the centre-right think. Let's, for balance now, not that we're governed by Ofcom, let's hear what Richard Tice has had to say about Keir Starmer falling on his sword today.
I think actually both our voters and the country is delighted that Keir Starmer, the most unpopular Prime Minister, has now resigned. We campaigned in the local elections, vote reform to get Starmer out, and that's what's now been achieved. And the big question now is there going to be a contest or is there going to be a coronation? Regardless of that, we're saying that if the country is going to be faced with a completely different set of policies from someone that most people don't know, Andy Burnham, then actually what we need is a general election. The country's broken. Everybody knows it. That's why Keir Starmer was so unpopular. The idea that you can have someone that most people have never heard of, no idea what he stands for on the economy, on foreign policy, on defence, on culture, on immigration, on the boats, on waspy women, on pensions and all of that. Let's test those policies in front of the British people at a general election.
A little more scathing from Richard Tice there, Deputy Leader of Reform. That's what the Leader of Reform had to say in the last few seconds.
On May the 7th, in the Midlands, Yorkshire, all the north of England, Reform scored absolutely stunning victories in areas that Labour had dominated for the best part of 100 years. The sheer scale of our victory against Labour made it inevitable that this Prime Minister could not survive. And because of that, Burnham steps forward and wins quite convincingly the Makerfield by-election, ironically with the same message that we had in the local elections. Ours was vote reform, get Starmer out. His was vote Burnham, get Starmer out. Unbelievably, we're about to have our 6th Prime Minister in 7 years. I remember growing up thinking Italy was totally ungovernable as they went through a new Prime Minister every year, and yet that's where we are here. Why is it all happening, and why did we get that big number of votes in the north of England? Well, 10 years ago, on the 23rd of June 2016, we voted Brexit. Much of our political establishment has never accepted the result. And even those that reluctantly did, namely the Conservative Party, refused to implement what voters demanded, namely lower levels of immigration and more freedom for our sole traders and small businesses. They were just 2 of the benefits we could have taken having got back self-governance. Under Starmer, the Labour Party has moved much closer back to the European Union, and if Mr Burnham wins, they'll go closer still, which means Labour voters and the Labour Party are completely divided on this issue. But the bigger point today is that of a mandate, is that of legitimacy. I've no idea whether there'll be a contest or a coronation, but what I do know is the British public have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. I demand, we at Reform demand, a general election. After all, When the Conservatives were chopping and changing prime ministers, Labour kept saying there should be a general election. On that.
Greg, back to you. Sorry, lots and lots of clips and comment. I mean, you can imagine there's lots and lots of breaking news here in terms of all and sundry from the British political establishment having their say. Do you agree with the premise that if we change a leader of a party and prime minister, even though we don't have a presidential system like you do in the US, but do you agree that there should now be a vote by the country as a general election?
I think there's a lot of merit to that argument. And what we saw with the Tories back in 2022, it went from bad to worse, right? First you had, Liz Truss was elected without a really proper general election, but at least the party voted for her, if I recall correctly. When Rishi was coronated, they didn't even go to the party vote. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to that there should be a general election. This is going to be 3 years of pain. If we think it's bad now, I think it might very well get worse with Andy Burnham. He is probably, arguably more to the left, and I think the president knows that, or at least he's being briefed on it right now. In his first term, remember, it was Theresa May and then Boris. So he might not have agreed with them on everything, but at least they were the party of the right, allegedly, even though they had windfall taxes and price caps and all the other nonsense and mass migration. But, I think it's going to be difficult for the president, but I'm with you, Russell. He will reach out to Andy Burnham, or maybe the other way around. He will give Andy Burnham a chance. I think he'll push him on these issues that we've already talked about, but, I think he'll at least give him a chance, but I'm not very optimistic.
Look, thank you. I look forward to President Trump's posts on either X or True Social in the coming days. That will be very, very telling, won't it? No doubt he'll be writing to Andy Burnham to tell him exactly how he thinks he should conduct himself as Prime Minister of Great Britain. Greg Swenson, Republicans Overseas, as ever, great friend of the show. Thanks for appearing on UK Live. I'll look forward to seeing you soon, or certainly seeing you on this channel again soon. Jess Kane is still with me. Jess, you've got some breaking news from Andy Burnham.
Andy Burnham has just released a statement on Twitter saying that he is going to put himself forward in the leadership process. And it is quite interesting here. At the last paragraph, he says that there will be a positive process of renewal for our party and our country. It's quite vague there, but...
What does that mean?
Exactly. We don't know exactly what it means. But he does say in the previous paragraph that he wants to see progress on economic growth. Well, I don't know how he's going to do that if he's going to focus on public services and housing and opportunities for the next generation, as he says in his third paragraph there, because he wants to bring them all back into public ownership, which is going to cost billions and billions of pounds.
Do you think one of the problems here is that we've heard this from Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer over the last 2 years? They've banged on about growth a lot, but they think that growth comes from bloating the public sector. My little message to Andy Burnham, because he's probably watching this, because I know he's a big fan of UK Live, is that growth comes from the private sector. It comes from entrepreneurs, it comes from wealth creators, it comes from business owners. So whether they're in the tech space, aerospace, hospitality, financial services, whatever, it comes from those people feeling empowered to take risk, to invest money in businesses, employ people, expand, pay tax. That then contributes to the value of the country in terms of GDP. It doesn't come from just infrastructure projects. It doesn't come from bloating train drivers' salaries. Do you think Burnham now is already, from that statement you just read, in danger of kind of going down a road which has already been well travelled by Rachel Reeves and by Keir Starmer, in that he's already talking about growth, but not really understanding what growth is?
No, quite right. And also, I have heard rumours on Twitter that he is looking at rebuilding the HS2 all the way back to the north to reconnect the north and the south. But that will cost how much billions? 300 billion did they throw at it?
Well, I know
it's a ridiculous amount
way
of money.
over budget, that's for sure.
It is extortionate.
Is there anything else from the statement you've just seen from Andy Burnham's X account? Anything else that you can see that indicates that he might be lurching to the left? Because from what I can see here, it's just a load of word salad that doesn't actually talk about policy or vision.
Very vague. It's just a load of words, just a load of, I'm going to step in, I'm going to be this great leader. But look, the only thing really that I can see is he wants to do stuff for cost of living, public services, housing and opportunities for the next generation. Political change should never distract from the responsibility to improve people's lives. Is that him basically saying, oh, me going in as Prime Minister should not distract you from your life? Oh, stay sleepy, stay detached. No, guys, need to lock in.
But Jess, are we being unfair on Andy Burnham? Do we think that it's too early for him to be setting out a policy agenda?
He should be setting a policy agenda immediately because he's already said he wants to stand for Prime Minister. The whole reason he stood for that seat in Makerfield is because he wanted to be Prime Minister. He should have been inflating this to a national stage straight away, but he's being vague because he wants to get everyone on the side, and then as soon as he's in office, he wants to take us farther to the left, and I can't stand this.
He might be being vague and was in Makerfield simply because he knows that his true colours in terms of what he really feels, particularly when it comes to welfare spending, immigration, crime and borrowing generally and nationalisation, that those things aren't actually very popular with now what is a majority of people, including the people of Makerfield. So I think we're going to end up here with another situation where we have a Keir Starmer-like Andy Burnham who will say anything he can to get elected, including to the Parliamentary Labour Party, and then actually be a bit of a loose rudder, loose cannon when it comes to how he actually governs. So yes, I'm not sure this is boding well, really. I'd like to have seen Andy Burnham as a statesman, as a potential Prime Minister, come out the blocks today and say, right, this is what I'm going to do on crime and policing. This is what I'm going to do to get rid of this, he will say, this perception of two-tier justice. This is what we're going to do on the economy. This is what we're going to do on jobs. This is what we're going to do on defence. This is what we're going to do on health. This is what we're going to do on the environment. I'm not sure we're going to hear any of that. I think he's just going to make it up as he goes along. This does not put the country in any better place whatsoever versus the catastrophe, in my opinion, that has been Keir Starmer. Oh, well, wow, what a show. That 2 hours whizzed past, didn't it, everybody? Hopefully you like the fact that poor Elena and Scarlett in the background here had to keep up with all the breaking news, which was completely unplanned. So all of the clips and all of the stuff that we've talked about with Greg and with Jess and with Lembit over the last couple of hours, we've literally had to scurry along and find all this stuff on the hoof. So well done, by the way, gallery, people behind the camera there. Yes, well done. I think we've probably done a better job than Sky, the BBC, ITV and Channel 4, because we literally have brought to you just about every bit of breaking news, every comment, every statement being made by politicians across the country on the glorious announcement at about 9:30, 20 to 10 this morning that is Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, intends and has resigned as both Prime Minister and indeed leader of the Labour Party. Joy. Let's see how long these balloons stay up. They're still there in celebration. Should we talk to Mark Littlewood now? Talking of celebration, have we got anything in football terms, Mark, to celebrate? Because I feel like I've won the World Cup today on the basis that Keir Starmer has resigned. I don't care about football and whether it's coming home. To me, it's already come home because Keir Starmer's gone.
Russell, I'm going to be treating every celebration I see in every city across the world as if it's celebrating the resignation of Keir Starmer rather than the football results. What a glorious, glorious day. Now, you promised me, my friend, that you were going to tell us, you bragged about this on social media, Russell, that you were going to tell us everything you knew about football at the end of this programme. But you've left more than a minute. You're going to have to filibuster, aren't you?
Yeah, and obviously that was me making a parody of myself. I've been rather distracted over the last couple of hours by this glorious news, Mark, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't even know when England are playing next or who they're playing.
Okay.
Can you tell us?
Okay, well, the next England game comes up on Tuesday against Ghana. England heavy favourites. We've already beaten Croatia, who are the toughest team in our group. And then at the end of the week, we face Panama. Now, fingers crossed. Don't want to take these minnows for granted. On my show just coming up, Russell, we're going to be showing that some of the minnows really have bitten back. But England should comfortably get into the next round. Interestingly, although Scotland lost to Morocco, just before the weekend got underway, other results have gone their way. So Scotland have probably got a chance of qualifying too, as long as they don't get walloped by Brazil. But a 1-0, a 2-0 defeat should do it. So looking pretty good for the home nations at the moment. But we've got lots to chew over. There are a dozen games over the over the weekend. So make sure you stay tuned and join me to go through who's going to qualify, who's going to be eliminated. We know Starmer's been eliminated and Burnham has qualified, but we'll be going through the entire globe on the same basis, Russell.
Yeah, so, yes, okay. So I was going to try and make some kind of football quip there, but I'm ill-equipped to do so. I don't know anything whatsoever. But what I do know is that it's still not coming home. And that probably, I mean, here's my analysis, is that I think in this World Cup, we are going to end up with an upset. We're going to end up with someone winning this World Cup that we did not expect to win it.
Yeah, that could be right. It is probably the most open World Cup in many, many, many decades, right? There is not a total standout favourite. France are the favourites, then Spain and England. And then a bit further down the list, you're looking at Brazil, Argentina, perhaps Germany, perhaps the Netherlands. But there isn't a standout team. Everybody's heavily odds against. So if you fancy a real long odds bet, Russell, the Cape Verde Islands have played 2 games and are still undefeated. I think you can get them at about 5,000 to 1 if you fancy a bit of fun.
Like and before you go, before I say goodbye to Jess, why are you wearing a baseball shirt?
This is not a baseball shirt, and it shows your appalling knowledge of association football, Russell. Look, I'll confess, actually, this is a cricket cap, just because it matches with the shirt. This is a New York Cosmos shirt from the 1970s. One of the great teams who kick-started football in North America. They even had the great Pele playing for them.
Is that the one where George Best went to?
Yeah, he played for the New Jersey team. So there are 2 players you have heard of. Well done, Russell.
And the only
You've heard
2.
of George Best. You've heard of Pele. You're nearly an expert. I'll get you on my show next week if you brush up a little bit.
I'll let you into something here, Mark. When I was on Talk once, I think it was my second show ever, Pele died whilst I was on air live. And I got a call from the boss at that station who said, "Are you okay doing half an hour of a tribute to Pele?" And I said, "Not really." It's not really.
You had heard of him, right?
I had heard of him. And thank goodness for Google and Wikipedia. It's a shame I didn't know you then, because I think I would have been on the phone to you to tell me what to say. Anyway, right, Mark's show coming up in a second. Thank you, Mark. Wait there for 1 second. And Jess Kane, thank you very much indeed for keeping up with all of this this celebratory stuff about Keir Starmer having just fallen on his sword as Prime Minister of Great Britain. As I've said many, many times over the last 2 hours, and as said in the ticker, good riddance, Keir Starmer. You've been hopeless. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Goodbye and good riddance. See you, Keir. See you later, all.
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup. Is it finally coming home after 60 years? I'll be broadcasting from the beautiful town of Calidore in Mallorca, which has vast numbers of sports bars for me to watch every second of every single match. We're going to have guests, chats, and don't worry if you don't really understand football or if you're not interested in it. This is going to be a sideways take on the biggest sporting tournament that mankind has ever seen. We'll never be offside, but you might sometimes see me bombing down the right wing. We'll be looking at what's happened in the previous night's games, what's going to happen in that evening's games, and we're going to be profiling as many of the countries as we can. There's 48 of them in this year's World Cup. What do you need to know about not just France and Argentina and Spain, but Curacao, Haiti, the Cape Verde Islands, the long shot minnows. Be there from noon weekdays on UK Live, joining me for a World Cuppa. See you then.
The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be televised.
Well, welcome. It's me, Mark Littlewood, with my daily weekday World Cuppa. Big breaking news from the United Kingdom after 2 years of an appalling win-loss ratio, endless own goals, several red cards given out to his own team. Keir Starmer has been eliminated and Andy Burnham is clearly in the next round. Most are falling by the wayside, it seems. So we're pretty old school here. I've instructed everybody to make sure that we name the teams appropriately. We're none of this Turkey nonsense. We're not even going for Czechia. It's definitely the Czech Republic. Some really old school people might want to call them Czechoslovakia. So we're going to stay old school today. I'm hoping we'll be able to bring you all of the weekend results if you didn't stay up right the way through the night like I did to watch them all across the bottom of the screen pretty soon. Here you go. If any of you are confused about which these countries were, well, you should swat up on your history, but ask us in the chat if you genuinely need us to clarify, because I think we should go back to the full old school names. So here they are running across the screen below. And actually, I was delighted to find, before I'm joined by my wingman, Glyn Brailsford with his Glindex, that on the internet, there seems to be quite a lot of acceptance that it's just wrong to use these new-fangled names, especially ones that countries invent for themselves. So I wonder if we can pull up Pooch, or is it Scarlett in the hot seat today? I don't know. I'm miles away, hundreds of miles away in sunny Mallorca. A little bit about World Cup pronunciation. That's clip number 6, please, guys. See if you agree with them.
Hey, who's playing in the World Cup the next couple of days? We've got Scotland versus Al Maghrib. We have Brazil versus Haiti. We have Turkey versus Paraguay. What countries are those? Man, we're just using the names of the countries, the official names of the countries that they call themselves. That's how it works. It's always worked this way. So I'm just going to go down the official names of all the countries for the games coming up. So we have Koninklijk der Nederlanden versus Sverige. I guess that's the Netherlands. Deutschland versus Côte d'Ivoire. We have Ecuador versus Corsu. This is an exciting game. Tunis versus Nihon. That sounds racist. Is that racist? I don't know.
Is that racist? Much better to stick to the English. Or as you'll see across the ticker tape at the bottom, some of them, I'm afraid, we've had to go to the original French. You're with us on this, Glenn, aren't you? You've now got your nomenclatura right, the pronunciations right for each and every team in old school English. Look, I think we'll use the modern names rather than everything printed across the bottom of the screen, but the old English names as far as we can. What did you make at the weekend, Glenn? Quite a lot has now been sorted out, right?
Fantastic weekend. Have you had any sleep, Mark?
No, of course not. I haven't slept for 12 days. That's why I look so absolutely grim. This is what 12 days of no sleep and vast amounts of beer does to you. I don't recommend it, but it's good fun.
Only 3 weeks to go. Fantastic weekend, I thought. We saw heavyweights flexing their muscles. We saw the host nations more or less guaranteeing passage into the next round. And best of all, the minnows still punching way above their weight, and a scintillating goalkeeping display from a very underrated goalkeeper. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Let's talk about the Giants first. Spain beat Saudi Arabia 4-0. Lamine Yamal was in the team and showed what he's about. Comprehensive win. Obviously outpassed the Saudis. They outpass every team. But I don't know about you, Mark. I'm still not absolutely convinced about this particular Spain team. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were stunning statistics, weren't there, about how many passes they'd completed and shots they'd had, to a remarkable lack of effect, exposed enormously against Cape Verde, right, where they were knocking on the door but never opening the door. Look, a 4-0 win against Saudi Arabia, I mean, I guess they would have taken that before the game, roughly what you'd expect, but doesn't really prove the floodgates have opened yet. I mean, a good all-round performance. What would you give it? 7 out of 10, maybe 6.5 out of 10?
6.5. Yeah,
6.5. So Spain are one of the giants who have arrived, but a few others as well, right, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. Brazil finally showed up, 3-0 win over Haiti, but again, it was Haiti, so it's hard to really put that performance in a real perspective. But again, one of the big guns, Vinicius Junior, showed up again. He scored a great goal in the first set of fixtures. He scored a lovely goal again. He made the other two for Cunha. Although when I saw Zico score for Egypt, that made me think of much better Brazilian teams in the past. I don't think this is a classic Brazilian team. What about you?
No, I would agree with that. Look, you can just about see a pathway for them, because I still don't think, Russell Quirk was asking me this earlier, that there is a single standout team, right? So Brazil are what, sixth favourites or something, about a 14-1 shot. Of course, the last time it was in the USA in 1994, they actually won it, albeit after one of the drabbest finals ever, 0-0 and a penalty shootout. So, yeah, they're kind of in the mix. But no, you mentioned Zico, that 1982 team, which didn't make it all the way, were knocked out by Italy. Far, far superior to this Brazil team. But I'm kind of treating it, well, I was going to say there's 8 or 10 teams in the mix, but you could look at pretty much anyone, given how the
right now, yes.
Yeah. And then some of the other giants, right? You know, Germany. Well, Germany had a good start. Talk us through Germany and Holland. We're going to call them, aren't we? Holland.
We're going to call them Holland.
Come to life.
Although, if you're talking about old terms for countries, it's always bemused me that Holland's called the Low Countries when it's the highest country in the world in terms of population. They're all about 6'7" whenever you're in Amsterdam or whatever. But Germany, Mark, they took on Ivory Coast 1-1, came from a goal behind, but you know, I'm afraid they weren't the first nation to be sunk by a German sub. Dennis Undav came on, scored 2 goals. The winner 4 minutes into stoppage time. He's quite a remarkable story, though. He was a semi-pro until he was 23, so it's not often you get that in such rarefied terms as getting to the World Cup final. So good for him. But again, I'm still not sure. I don't think they've shown their true colours yet. What about you?
Yeah, but it's good old Germany, isn't it? Coming from behind, they scored the winner in 93rd, 94th minute. Ivory Coast couldn't cling on. That's kind of the clinical stuff you expect from the Germans. And then with the Dutch, right, they were up against the Swedes, who had a really good start, beat Tunisia 5-1. Tunisia sacked their manager after one game. I don't know if we can pull up, I think it's image 2. I started my evening. I want image 2. I started my evening with some very, very buoyant Swedes. There you can see me there in my Southampton tracksuit. They were all super confident, but that was about 5 minutes before kickoff. They got absolutely trashed 5-1 by the Dutch, who were pretty goddamn magnificent, right? You've got to put them in the bracket of teams who could possibly win it. And they have gone out 15 World Cup finals games without defeat. The last World Cup finals game they lost was the final in 2010 against Spain. So, having been runners-up 3 times, is it the year for the Orange? I don't know.
Is it because they're managed by a former Southampton manager, Mark?
Could be that. Yeah. And you know, Ronald Koeman, top manager. But what do you make of them? Wasn't it that the 1000th game? The Dutch
yes,
game?
which wants us to. We'll talk about that later, I think, about its import. But yes, statistically, and also Cody Gakpo's goal was the 100th goal of the tournament. We'll talk about that in a bit as well.
Okay, but let's go on quickly before we bring in our first guest, Glyn. On to the minnows, because those are the more exciting stories. I mean, Brazil winning, Germany winning, bit of a yawn, but 2 great minnow stories. Let's start with Curaçao. Another epic goalkeeping display. We got a picture of their hero. This guy is called Room, isn't he? And what a result for them. 0-0. Okay, you know, it was pretty goddamn plucky effort there. Tell us about that match.
Amazing. Again, I'm not sure this should be called World Cuppa. We should call it today World Keeper, I think, because the goalkeeper was just superb. Eloy Room plays for Miami FC. Background is from, it won't surprise you, playing for Curaçao, but he's from the Netherlands, played in the junior ranks for the Holland. Let's go back to Holland, not the Netherlands. Played for their junior sides up to under 21 level. 37 years old. He created a new World Cup record by making 15 saves in the game to get them a goalless draw. That's the highest number of saves since records began, which was back in 86. And the record was set by Tim Howard, if you remember him, former Everton keeper, if I remember correctly. He made 15 saves in a single game, but unlike Room, he failed to keep a clean sheet because he conceded twice in extra time. So Room's performance was truly extra special.
Yeah, but I'm a bit sceptical about Curacao. Look, I like cheering on the minnows, but this was brought to my attention. From what I can gather, there's some sort of colony of Holland, right? So
Yes.
we got clip 4, which is the Dutch royal family going to the Curacao dressing room to celebrate with them. If we can show clip number 4, then I'm going to give you my politically incorrect thoughts about it. Look, I don't understand all the constitution around that areas, but if they're basically a Dutch colony, they're not a country, they should not be allowed to compete. I mean, can Southampton send a team to the World Cup as a kind of city or, within England? We got kicked out of the Championship playoff final. Maybe we should have just sent our team to the World Cup. Bit iffy there, I think, Glyn. But just quickly before we bring in our first guest, let's talk about Cape Verde. Another great result. 2 draws they've had, undefeated, 2-2 against Uruguay. 10 seconds on that, Glyn.
Yeah, and unlike Curacao, who Ecuador had an XG of 3.05, so that shows what the keeper did. Whereas Cape Verde, I think, just really held their own all the way through the fight. I could see them winning the game quite easily. So they didn't look like a minnow. I think that's the best thing you can say about them.
And they may yet qualify. Glyn, thanks for that. We'll be back to you a little later in the show for the Glindex for some key stats. But let's bring in the truly remarkable Sophie Corcoran. She is not just one of my favourite political commentators, social media influencers, but a genuinely good footballer. And, well, a young, genuinely good footballer. We'd have Mark Crossley on the show, but, he's long since retired. Sophie, West Ham fan, but Leyton Orient fan as well, presumably, right? Tell us about your team and a little bit about your football career. You've played in defence and up front for the Leyton Orient women's team. Isn't that right, Sophie? So you're a kind of Swiss Army penknife footballer.
Yeah, so I played for Leyton Orient when we were in step 3, so step 3 and 4 before. So what happened with the club basically is we were playing in the Women's National League. The club then wanted the women's team to come back into it. So they sacked off the team, which then our team then became London Seaward, which again played in the FA Women's National League. So I played in the FA Women's National League since I was 16. I played for Leyton Orient under 18s. I remember that. This is going back a while ago, but I also play a version of football called futsal as well, which is like an indoor version. And I've played for 2 teams in the FA Women's Super Series, which is the highest league of futsal in the UK. So yeah, I do like a bit of futsal. And obviously I'm a mighty West Ham fan, so.
Well, my team will be playing you next season then. Commiserations on your relegation. You're going to have a full rebuild. But look, tell me about the World Cup, Sophie. You work quite strange hours, I think. So I don't know how much of it you actually been able to actually watch. I know it's completely unsociable hours. But what's been your take of the first sort of 10 days or so of the tournament?
Well, it's been a really good watch. I was up late last night cheering on my beloved Cape Verde, who I think everyone has to have a second team, and Cape Verde are definitely my second team this year. No offense, Scotland, but I've been able to actually watch quite a lot of it because I do work weird hours. So a lot of the times I finish work sometimes at 2 a.m. or whatever. So I'm actually up already for the games, which is not a problem. I did have to watch the England game from work, but that was quite enjoyable. It's been a really entertaining World Cup so far. I'm definitely Team Minnows. Like I said, Cape Verde are proving themselves to not be minnows after yesterday. Everyone thought that the Spain draw was probably going to be a one-off. It was a bit of a luck, but actually they're showing that they can clearly compete. It was not just a one-off. They've got another draw against Uruguay. They not only can they defend, they can score goals as well. I mean, what a phenomenal free kick that was. I mean, I wish I could pull something out like that. Sadly, I'm not that good. But I think, I've really enjoyed it. I think England are playing really well. Some of the big teams are disgracing themselves, which is quite nice to see. It's been a good watch so far.
Hang on, who's disgraced themselves yet? Well, Spain had a rocky start.
Spain. Portugal have disgraced themselves quite a bit so far as well, actually. They haven't played too good. I wasn't overly impressed even with Spain beating Saudi Arabia. I don't think that they are playing particularly well. Also, I mean, Belgium are the biggest underachievers in the world. I mean, how you can have a team with so many big names, not just this year, but sort of over it entirely as well. And they've just never produced Belgium. You know, you think that, you know, you've got the likes of De Bruyne. I know obviously they're getting old now, but they should certainly be doing better than what they are. They're just chronic underachievers, really. I haven't really been overly impressed with Germany. I mean, they battered Curacao in the first game, so good for them to showing that they're a bit relentless. But they weren't too great against the Ivory Coast the other night. So I think the only, you know, decent teams. I mean, the Netherlands have done well, but again, they got stuck a little bit with Japan. But again, Japan are a really good
Holland.
team.
It's
So
called Holland, Sophie.
sorry,
It's called
sorry,
Holland.
Holland got themselves a little bit unstuck with Japan, who again are actually a really good team. I think are quite an underrated team. So far, I don't think the big teams have been doing great, actually.
Do you think England have been the best team in the tournament so far? Look, it's one match of 90 minutes to look at, but against a damn good Croatian side, how confident are you feeling? If your beloved Cape Verde don't actually make it to the final, and I'll give you a clue, they won't, how about your beloved England? What do you reckon as our prospects are?
You know what? I was talking to this about Russell on his show the other day, and I know we like to say it's coming home a lot, but I do feel like this year is different, and I think it's because there's a real sense of patriotism in this in the team that we saw with an article that come out about Jude Bellingham the other day, saying the importance of the national anthem. But also, it was the halftime team talk that really made a difference for me. Before, when we played with Southgate, I mean, Gareth Southgate is basically, if the HR department was a football manager, it would be Gareth Southgate. He is like the HR department of football managers. So, like, you know, if they do somewhat okay in the second half, it'll be all right. Whereas Tuchel clearly wasn't happy, and the England coaches clearly weren't happy about what they saw in the first half. And they came out in the second half and they absolutely battered Croatia. I mean, the Croatian keeper had an absolute blinder of a game because we should have scored a lot more than what we did. But I feel like there's been a real change in attitude with the England team that we haven't seen in previous World Cups that Thomas Tuchel has brought in. That's where he's different to Gareth Southgate. So I actually think, you know, we've got a good chance. We've actually played a good team in the groups. I mean, some of the other bigger teams have got really, really easy groups and have again found themselves coming a little bit unstuck. But we played a really good team in the first game, and I think we showed what we're about. So yeah, I think we've got a decent chance this year.
And if not us, and if not Cape Verde, asking for your head here rather than your heart. I mean, it sounds to me like you think England have got a good chance, but if you had to bet your life on it, they wouldn't necessarily be your pick. Who would be? Are you going with the bookies' odds? Do you think it would be France?
Well, see, the thing is, if I went with my heart, I really have an intense dislike of the French. So I'm not really hoping that the French will win the World Cup. I don't really like Germany football-wise for obvious reasons. So not really favouring them either. I think Argentina are playing well, but I think against the French team, they'll definitely come unstuck. Spain would be one of the favourites, but they're disgracing themselves so far this tournament. And I thought coming into it, I thought Portugal would be a lot better than what they were. So, to be honest, actually, I kind of do feel like England is going to win, or sadly, it is sadly going to be the French, which I'm not too happy about.
Yeah, it'd be unusual though, right? Let me try and recall this from memory. I haven't got it written down, but the general rule used to be that if it was held in continent X, a team from continent X would win. Now, it used to only be held in Latin America and in Europe. Obviously, it's been slightly muddied by Qatar and South Africa, but European teams, I think only Germany have won it on non-European soil, or Spain and South Africa, am I right? But generally, it's sort of, if it's in the Americas, it goes to an American team. If it's in Europe, it goes with a European team. But you don't seem particularly impressed by any of the South American teams. What about the host nations, though? The USA, Canada, and Mexico. USA and Mexico have both qualified. I don't know if we can pull up. This will get a lot more complicated, this slide. But I think we've got a slide on qualification. That's image number 3. 3 teams have got through. Canada basically have, as long as they don't lose their last match 7 or 8-0. Do you fancy any of the Latin or North American teams even? Are the USA, could they really do it? Great start, but I mean, there's still a long shot. And as you can see, we've put Burnham of Everton on qualified and Starmer of Arsenal on eliminated, given today's news.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think the USA have played really well, actually. I think this is probably the best shape I've ever seen a US team. Brazil is another one who I don't feel particularly inspired by anymore. I think when I was younger, the Brazil team used to be, you know, absolutely fantastic. Used to absolutely fear coming up against Brazil. They just don't bother me anymore. I wouldn't be too concerned should we come up against Brazil. I've seen some rumours about that potentially England could be set to face Portugal in the next round. Obviously, everything's still to play for with this whole third place thing as well. But again, I'm not really particularly fearful of Portugal either. So I don't think any of the American teams, other than the US, have really impressed me. Actually, Mexico have impressed me. They are a really decent team, and I certainly wouldn't want to come up against Mexico in their home ground because I think they have some sort of absurd record there. I think they've potentially only ever lost, like, I think it was like 3 times or something in their home ground. So I certainly wouldn't want to come up against them there. That would be a bit of a terrifying prospect, actually. But they've done pretty well. But I think out of sort of the Americas side of teams, I think Argentina are probably the best hope so far, which is considering they're relying on a very old Lionel Messi, but who is performing very well. I don't think is particularly. I do think this is a European win coming.
Yeah, well, Messi did perform well, obviously, but he should have been sent off and suspended for that appalling tackle. It does show that prestige and reputation in football can often out-trump the rules. Sophie, I can't let you go without you giving your thoughts on the sending off or substitution of the day. What do you make of Keir Starmer walking off the pitch, handing the captain's armband, it seems, to Andy Burnham? What do you make of that? Obviously, there's been vast numbers of own goals scored by this Labour government, a pretty appalling record over 2 years, a disastrous win-loss ratio. What do you make of handing the captain's armband from Starmer, presumably to Burnham?
Well, if we put it in football terms, I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit like Tunisia sacking their manager after losing 5-1 and still losing 4-0.
That's a really good tip. Actually, a very senior politician put to me the other day, they don't think Andy Burnham will make it to the general election, that we could get yet another change of leader. And did you know, get your head around this, we are now changing British Prime Minister with greater frequency than the average Premier League teams change their manager. British politics even more trigger happy than English Premier League football. Nuts. Sophie, thanks for joining us. Look, we'll get you on again on the show, hopefully for like an England-Cape Verde quarter-final or something. That would be truly epic. So good luck, and I look forward to seeing Saints against your beloved West Ham next season as well. That should be a corking match. Thanks so much, Sophie. Speak to you soon. Let's bring back the Glindex, because as you know, we're trying to tell you a bit about the countries that you might not know a great deal about, either in football terms or about them at all. I couldn't even pronounce Curacao at the start of this tournament. Certainly didn't really know where the Cape Verde Islands are. And we're trying to profile the small teams at the start because we kind of assumed they'd get knocked out, but that might not be the case. The minnows are doing so well. But our country profile today, my wingman, Glyn Brailsford. What have you got in your Glindex today, Glyn? I think it's all about Jordan, right? Who lost their first game to Austria, are in action tonight against the Algerians. They've got to pick something up there, really, to stick in the tournament. Might have to pick up 3 points, given the nature of that group, because they'll play Argentina in their last match. Tell me everything I didn't know about Jordan because I was scared to ask. You've got it all in your Glindex file today, Glyn.
Well, probably like you, I knew more about Joe Jordan than Jordan until recently. But here's a few things about them politically and geographically. Where is it? Well, it's a hotspot. It's bordered by Syria, Iraq, Saudi, and Israel and Palestine. And apparently it's the lowest point on earth. Now, I thought that was Middlesbrough when I lived there, but apparently it's Jordan. The Dead Sea, which is located in Jordan, is the lowest land elevation on the planet. It's over 1,400 feet below sea level. The water's so dense with salt that you can effortlessly float on the surface like a cork, which would be good for me because I can't swim, strangely. Then the landscape is sort of extraterrestrial as well. It's called a Martian landscape. There's a red desert valley there in southern Jordan called Wadi Rum. It looks so otherworldly that it was used as the primary location for the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. Great movie. I don't know if you remember that, Mark. We can talk about that later. Then Jordan's also the home of the oldest bread. In 2018, scientists uncovered the world's oldest known evidence of bread making in the northeastern desert in Jordan. The ancient flatbread dates back 14,500 years, although I imagine it's a bit stale by now. And also, it's a country of wonders, an ancient wonder. The ancient city of Petra was carved entirely out of pink sandstone cliffs by the Nabateans over 2,000 years ago, and it was named as one of the 7 new wonders of the world. Its economy, unlike many other Middle Eastern countries, Jordan's virtually no oil, so it relies heavily on tourism, foreign assistance, and a highly educated workforce to drive its economy. On the football front,
Nick Nack in the chat was just saying he'd been on holiday there and it's a lovely place. So tourism, like quite a lot of the countries who have qualified, seems to be what it's all about.
Absolutely.
But Glenn, before you tell us about the football team, I'll show you the celebrations of when Jordan qualified for this World Cup. They've got off, unsurprisingly, to a rocky start. They need something against the Algerians tonight. But I think, let me have a look at my run sheet, it's clip number 5. This is the Jordanian celebrations when they qualified for their first ever World Cup. But tell me what you think. I think it looks more like Jordan are at war. Yeah, so pretty keen, but it looked like a cross between a celebration and a missile strike. What should we look for in the football team, Glenn? The Jordanian football team?
well, they're ranked 63rd in the world. Actually, going back on that clip, Mark, you can tell they're bordered by Iraq and Israel and Palestine. That's what it looks like. But they're ranked 63rd in the world. This is their first ever tournament, hence the massive celebrations. Their nickname is Al Nashama, but because we're sticking to English, that means the chivalrous or the patriotic heroes with a brave spirit of sacrifice. The Jordanian royal family are super fans. Crown Prince Hussein even celebrated in the dressing room with the players right after they got through to the World Cup finals. And there is an English connection. They've had 5 British managers over the years, including the late Ray Wilkins from 24 to 2015, and Harry Redknapp for a month, much like many other clubs, in 2016. That's it, Mark.
There you go. Well, that's everything you needed to know from the Glindex about Jordan. We're going to be coming back for some more from the Glindex after we've gone to Edward Hughes with the news. But I should just say, remember to hit the like thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. I've just been keeping an eye on the numbers. We've zoomed up last week in subscriptions, and I think we're just a handful shy of getting to 10,000. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe, hit like, and here is Edward Hughes with today's news.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Monday Bulletin. Pressure is growing on Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Andy Burnham, the former mayor of Greater Manchester, won a decisive by-election in Makerfield, clearing the path for a potential leadership challenge. Starmer has said he will fight any contest, but speculation is mounting about his future, including comments from US President Donald Trump. A serious train collision near Bedford last Friday killed 1 driver and injured around 100 people, with 9 still in critical condition. Emergency services responded quickly, and investigations continue. An amber extreme heat warning is active for parts of England and Wales, with temperatures forecast to reach 35 to 38 degrees Celsius midweek. This could challenge June records and bring health and travel impacts. Yeah, like we need a warning to tell us it's hot. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
There was Edward Hughes with the news. The news has obviously moved on. I think we know that Starmer's not going to be contesting the Labour leadership election. He will be gone soon. That leadership election nominations close on July the 16th, and there may only be 1 nominee. Now, before we bring in our next guest, Paul Scagnelli, businessman, Arsenal fanatic and England fan, I want to go back to the Glindex because you've got something to tell us a bit, Glyn, about Goals Rush and Gold Rush in this tournament. what can you dig out of the Glindex for us on goals and gold?
Absolutely, Mark. Well, I mentioned this earlier, but the first milestone reached in the Netherlands-Sweden game was Cody Gakpo's goal, which was the 100th of the tournament, and that came up in just 33 games. That's the fastest any World Cup has reached 100 goals since the 58 World Cup in Sweden, which also took 33 games. But the all-time record, get this, I was astonished by this one, the only tournament in football history to reach 100 goals quicker was the 1954 World Cup in Sweden, which needed only 20 games to hit 3 digits. That's 5 goals a game, which is really quite remarkable. But this tournament's been an absolute goal fest. It's going to continue being so. 121 goals have been scored so far across the opening matches. That's a blistering average of 3.03 goals per game. Now, to put that into some kind of context, in the previous highest was in Qatar in 2022, when it was 2.69 goals. In Russia in 2018, it was 2.64, and a little higher in 2014 in Brazil, it was 2.67. And the historical average is 2.70. So at 3.03, we're well above that. Now, what's the reason?
Hang on. Health warning, right?
Yeah,
so I don't know about those previous tournaments, and maybe I'm being unfair on the minnows who we've been celebrating, but you're more likely to get goals in the early rounds, right? Because you'll get a score like Spain 4, Saudi Arabia 0, Germany 7, Curacao 1. So you'd expect the average to fall as the tournament goes on. So I can see that you've got that signpost of the fastest to get to 100 goals. But when we get to the quarterfinals between Brazil and France, you're not going to get a 6-0 or a 7-1, right? So the average is likely to drop. Is that a fair point to make?
I think it is, but because we've still got another round of the group games, there's a chance for a lot of teams to, knock up a load of goals in those remaining games before we get to the knockout stage. So I think the average could be even higher by the time we go into the knockout. And yes, you're absolutely right. Once the games get serious, if you want to call it that, the goal scoring will come down. But I think what we've also got to bear in mind is, has there been another World Cup where there have been so many big hitters in terms of individual players at the tournament with fantastic goal-scoring records? So Messi, of course, got a hat-trick. He's on 16 World Cup goals. Is he going to get the World Cup record in the next game? I suspect he might. Mbappe, Haaland, Harry Kane, Vinny Jr.'s turned up. Jonathan David scored 3.
So it could be the best ever race for the Golden Boot, right? For the individual
Absolutely.
top. All right.
Yeah.
Quickly, because we got our guest waiting. Gold rush. You want to talk about money as well as goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said on Friday,
cash end of football.
Yeah, I said on Friday that the World Cup is like the biggest shop window in the world as well, and the transfer talk is really getting up to hyper levels already with 3 weeks of the tournament to go. But here's just a few. Marcus Rashford might still join Barcelona because. And Paris Saint-Germain apparently looking at Crescencio.
Paris Saint-Germain.
Yes, okay, you can do that. I'm rushing through these. Then there's musical chairs in the air because Barcelona's Rafinha might go to Saudi Arabia. If he goes to Saudi Arabia, that leaves a space at Barcelona that could well then be filled by Marcus Rashford. That's up in the air at the moment. Brighton are weighing up whether to hold on to Yassine Asari, the Swedish midfielder who we've seen at the tournament, but Newcastle are after him. Arsenal are hoping Declan Rice can use his time in the England squad to persuade Morgan Rogers to join them at the Emirates next season. And then Juventus are chasing a number of players, including Emi Martinez, Aston Villa in Argentina, and John Stones, who, of course, is free to leave Manchester City now. Few more. This one staggered me, but Chelsea are keeping tabs on Florian Wirtz of Liverpool. Sounds a strange one. But, of course, Xabi Alonso is the new Chelsea manager, and he was Wirtz's boss at Bayer Leverkusen. So they may reunite at Stamford Bridge. But, again, that deal is concomitant on Enzo Fernandez being transferred, which again looks likely.
So it's basically it's kind of it's like Jenga, isn't it? One piece has to move for the other bits.
Absolutely.
To fall in place. Were you
Absolutely.
saying that the asking price for Rashford is a mere 40 million? Sounds like a bargain.
Just 40 million. I know his wages are astonishingly high, 300 grand a week or something, but nonetheless, that seems, given the figures that, for example, they're talking about Diamande, a 19-year-old from the Ivory Coast. They're talking about 100 million for him, but he's unproven. He showed devastating speed in the last game, but he also played like a drain for the first 25 minutes, couldn't control the ball, let it run out of play, blah, blah, blah. I think you know what you're getting with Rashford. And I think also, even more staggering, Juventus
very
are willing
quickly,
to
Glenn,
let...
we're running over time here.
Last one, Jonathan David from Juventus. He's available for 26 million. Well, who wouldn't take a punt on that?
Yep. Well, Carl Larin, who's been the other standout Canadian player, all right, he's 31, but Southampton has signed him permanently for just over 3 million. I think that's the World Cup bargain so far. Glenn, we'll be back to you later to look forward to tonight's games, but joining me now is Paul Scagnelli, businessman, Arsenal ultra fan, big England fan too. Paul, how the devil are you, mate? Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Mark. Nice to meet you. We've obviously got a mutual friend, so I've heard a lot about you, a lot of good things. So it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, your mic isn't that great. Can you get a bit closer to your microphone?
Let me see. Sorry, is that better?
Say a few words for me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can just about hear you. Try and speak up. The mic isn't brilliant. But look, I wanted to start. Firstly, congratulations to Arsenal. Looked a bit wobbly for a while, but you won the Premier League. There are 15 Arsenal players at the World Cup, if my research is right. 4 of them in the England squad. Have I got that right? Eze, Rice, Saka. Who have I missed?
Yes, I think they're the ones in the England squad. It's been obviously a very long, draining season as an Arsenal fan. We got what we wanted in the end. But, building up, certainly for this World Cup, being a fan that's gone to every single game for Arsenal, and every game seems to be by one goal towards the end of it, and a very stressful time. Even my little trip to Southampton in the FA Cup, which didn't go to plan, but no, it was a hard season, so I found it quite draining to actually get up for this World Cup. I was quite looking forward to a break from football, but the World Cup so far, I think, has been really good, and I think it's been great to see the lower teams, actually. I think building up for this World Cup, I thought that it was a bit ruined by the amount of lesser teams in it, and I thought the quality maybe wouldn't be so great because of it, but in a weird way, I think the lesser teams have made it quite exciting and enjoyable, and seeing sort of Cape Verde the other night again get another draw, it's made things really good. So no, it's not been as bad a World Cup as I thought it might be.
Yeah, the minnows always make it. Paul, I don't know if we can do anything to turn your volume up. I can just about hear you, but the volume's still pretty low. We're having to
turn these headphones off instead. That might work a bit better.
some advice from our producer there, Pooch. What's your advice, Pooch? Pooch had some technical advice, but I was speaking over him. Let's see. Say a few words to me. Yeah, still a bit scratchy, but we'll persist for a few minutes, Paul. Now, what's your take on Saka? Right, we exposed him on UK Live online, and he didn't seem to know about the new rules about corner kicks, which was pretty shocking in my view, especially given how Arsenal have been using corner kicks.
Hello.
Yeah, well, you put your ears back in. Yeah, you might be able to hear me now, Paul, but can you hear me now, Paul? We're just having a bit of problems hearing you. All right, let's bring Glenn back in while we try and sort out the... Paul, I could hear you there. You need to be able to hear me as well, though. We'll try and bring Paul back in if Pooch and the production team can sort that out. Look, there's hundreds of Arsenal players, hundreds of Premier League players at the tournament, Glenn, 407, I think. 15 Arsenal players, I believe. 15 of them. Who are we missing? Who am I missing from the England team? There's 4 in the England team.
Madueke.
Oh, Madueke, yeah, who started, of course. Rice, to my mind, is our second most important player after Harry Kane. Absolutely crucial.
Above Bellingham?
Hello?
Oh, we got Paul back.
Oh, it sounds like we've got him.
It sounds like we've got you back.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us, though? Paul, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Hello?
Right. We can hear Paul. He can't hear us. I hope the background people are texting him to sort that out. I really want to get his views on the Arsenal team. I also wanted to ask him about the hydration breaks, because this has been a long-running complaint, right, about the hydration breaks. Extraordinarily unhistorical thing, was leaning into American sport. I've got a theory about what we now need to do on the hydration breaks. Let's play clip 1. Right, I think we got Paul back, loud and clear. I'm hoping. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Right.
Now you're dominating the whole screen. This is like Donald Trump on a big screen or something.
Let me go back. Sorry, I've got you on the iPhone. I know where I am with that. I don't know why I tried on a computer. That's mad of me.
Never use your kids' technology. No parent can ever master it. So,
No.
look, I wanted your take on the Arsenal players, particularly in the England team. But obviously, there's a vast spread of talent there. You got Kai Havertz for Germany. You got Trossard at Belgium. Endless, 15 of them in total. But particularly, talk me through those 4 England players. Rice,
well,
is fantastic. But Saka, what's your take on him? Dropped for the first match. Did come on, of course, but dropped from the starting 11.
Very concerned about Saka. I mean, obviously, as like I said, I've been to all the games, and towards the end of the season as well, you really get the feeling that he's just not fit. He's not at the pace. He's not at the level that he needs to be. I mean, just based on the Champions League final, you could see that he was just off of it. And I was very surprised, really. I know he's an important player to bring, but he's not at the level at the moment. And I just can't see how picking him was the right move, because I just think he's just not fit. He's not fit, and he's clearly obviously carrying this Achilles injury. And I don't ever think he's kind of got over the hamstring issues as well. And I think it's quite common, Mark, with a lot of these players, a lot of these pacey players especially, they've kind of they get them in so young that they kind of burn them out by the time they're sort of at this stage in his career, 24, 25, 26. And if they start to get hamstring injuries and other injuries, they just lose that little half a yard of pace, and they're not quite the same player. And I mean, I love him. He's been fantastic for Arsenal. He's brilliant for England. But going forward, I just wonder, have we got another issue like we had Sterling on loan last season? And, in spells, it was like watching someone from Soccer Aid or something, and he was 29 years old. But again, early in his career, he was an amazing player. And I do fear for Saka a little bit. And I think it would have been more wise to bring, our young player Max Dowman instead, because you've got Madueke, who's, I think, brilliant, and he done excellent the other night for England. And I think, for Saka, I'm just very worried about him. And I just can't see how he's going to get into his form for this World Cup.
Yeah. Now, tell us about Max Dowman. I've been truly excited when I've seen him play. Look, I don't want to talk about Southampton's season. It breaks my heart. But obviously a highlight was beating Arsenal at St Mary's in the FA Cup quarter-final. Dowman was the standout player for Arsenal on the pitch. I appreciate he had a pretty bad game there overall for the team. But how old is he? And do you think there was a case for taking him with the squad, even if you weren't going to play him? Because he's clearly, surely to God, going to be a massive future England star, right? And way back in the day, I think it was when Theo Walcott was switching between Southampton and moving on to Arsenal, they took Theo Walcott as a 16-year-old. Tell us a bit about Dowman, and do you think he should have been there, even if he's not going to get that many minutes? You know, you might put him on against Panama if we're 4-0 up or something.
Yeah, I mean, Max would have been perfect to take, I think. Very tricky player, obviously different to Saka. It's not about the pace and that sort of player, but very tricky on the ball. For us, for example, I mean, he changed so many games. You know, he's 15 when I think he was 15 when he changed the game against Everton, or 16 now. And you know, he came on and and as well in games. I think the first game of the season last season we played Leeds at home, and as their legs were going, you bring someone like him on, he wins you free kicks, he wins you penalties because teams are tired, and he's so tricky on the ball that I think there would have been a definitely I would have took him over Saka, because I just think, like I say, Saka is just that little bit not fit. I mean, the Champions League final showed that. And whereas Dowman, I just think it would have been a great experience for him this World Cup. And in some games, even against the big teams, if you want someone to come on when teams are tiring in this heat, and someone like Dowman on the ball can win you so many set piece chances, and he's a really special talent. I think for us, we're very lucky to have a player like that. Definitely, he's a really good player.
Could he take a penalty? Because I want your thoughts now on Thomas Tuchel has said if we're going to win the World Cup, he thinks we will probably have to win 2 penalty shootouts. Right? It's almost inconceivable. You know, it's almost inconceivable given there's an extra knockout round now. I think whoever wins the World Cup almost certainly going to have to win at least 1 penalty shootout. Saka, I think, is a bit flaky at that. We obviously don't know much about Dowman, but would you trust a young lad to put his laces through the ball?
Well, no, I don't think he'd be for that. No, but I mean, penalties are a sore subject for me at the moment. Obviously, we nearly had our dream the other month until that was crushed. But no, I mean, there's enough good penalty takers there anyway. I think for England, I think that you know, I wouldn't want a young lad to really take a penalty. No, definitely not.
That could be crushing.
More experience.
We'd put him 11th after Jordan Pickford, right?
Yeah, Jordan can smash one in. Definitely, Jordan can smash one in.
So, what are your thoughts, Paul? Quickly on what you've seen so far. I think everybody's enjoyed the minnows, but I'm now starting to ask people, really, what do you give England as a chance? Do you peg them as one of the favourites? And if not, which other team have you seen that you think, oh my God, I don't want England to face them? I think their name might be on the trophy.
Well, I think France is the obvious one, aren't they? I mean, they're scary, the players they had up front. You know, the choices they had, and then the players they can bring on, and they look good everywhere, really. France. So I think for me, they're the main ones. But England have definitely got a chance. I mean, from what I see, we've got a great manager. I think that the team, you know, he's got a pretty good. I just wish we had a fit Saka, you know, a Saka from a year ago or something before he started getting these injuries that we've had this season. Because players like that do make the difference, and we're going to need them at some stage. And but obviously, you know, if you know, Declan Rice and he keeps delivering those set pieces to Harry Kane, we'll do okay. We'll be strong in that department. But I think England can definitely go far. I'm not sure about winning it, unfortunately, but I think they can go quite far. Spain looked good the other night. I know they drew that first game, but obviously, like last World Cup when Argentina lost at home, lost to Saudi Arabia, and then they came back. I think Spain will be strong. But England are one of the ones that that have got a chance, definitely.
And Paul, great to get your thoughts, and especially as it looks like many of the Arsenal team will be going deep in the competition, hopefully with England, but if not, with Spain or Germany, perhaps Belgium, but they've got off to a rocky start. But as you may or may not know, we're running throughout this tournament Mark Littlewood versus the rest of the world on a predictions game, which means I'm given a slight advantage because it is me against the rest of the world. So I go first on each prediction, and I'm asking for your prediction of France versus Iraq tonight. I've gone for 4-0 to France. So you can't have that, but you can have any other score.
Let's go 5-0.
5-0. There you go. Expecting the goal fest to continue. Paul, great to have you. We'll have you back on next time. Make sure you use your iPhone. Never ever.
I'll stick to the iPhone.
Tech. It never ever works, right? So always use your old style tech. It's always the best way. But great to see you, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. Take care. Thank you.
See you soon. Take care. Let's bring my wingman, the Glenn Brailsford, back in for Well, I think a kind of quick audit of the tournament so far, as well as a look ahead to tonight's games. I mean, I really think it has been a great tournament. Sometimes World Cups have disappointed. There's obviously been a fair slice of controversy. There always is. Certainly in the build-up to the tournament, you get a lot of controversy because there isn't much football to talk about. Hopefully the football then crowds it out. Big issue about ticket prices. Obviously, we've even heard from one of our guests in America who said, look, I'm into soccer, but I'm not going to go to a game if it's $500 for a ticket and, unbelievably overpriced everything when you're there, a hotel room, a beer, a hot dog or whatever. But I just wonder whether those ticket prices might be worth it. I mean, you obviously your eyes are on the pitch and the players, but let's just call up clip 7. This doesn't look like football in a stadium. This looks like football in a goddamn spaceship. Let's see if we can play clip 7. So that's the SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Absolutely stunning. That thing in the middle, the infinity screen, they call it, is a double-sided oval display screen with 4K resolution that spans an area of 70,000 square feet and contains 80 million pixels. The screen was designed by Samsung, the Korean company. It weighs approximately 998 tons. It includes 260 speakers, contains 56 5G antenna, and its cost is estimated between $50 and $120 million just for that screen kind of hanging from the roof. The cost of the sports stadium, which hosts a number of World Cup matches, is approximately $5.5 billion, making it the most expensive stadium in the world. No wonder it's hundreds of dollars a ticket. But that looks like, as I say, going into space rather than just watching football in a clapped out old stadium. Glenn, what have you made of the tournament so far and how the Americans, Canadians and Mexicans have done in hosting it and how well FIFA have done in running it?
Well, two things. When I watched the SoFi Stadium, it's fantastic. It's just a couple of miles up the road from where I used to live in LA. It wasn't there then, sadly. But I thought I was watching close encounters rather than a soccer game and a football game. I did hear one pundit last night saying how distracting it actually is for the players, which I'm sure they didn't think about that when they were building it. But nonetheless, the Americans always know how to put on a show. I think they are doing a fabulous job. There are political considerations aside, but as a spectacle, I think it's been top order so far. Also want to throw in not just the quality of the football, but I wanted to mention referees, which you don't do very often. But I think the refereeing and VAR have been really top-notch in this tournament, and we can learn a lesson from them. There was one game yesterday where they took about 3 minutes, and I don't understand why, because I called that one straight away offside. But by and large, it's been incident-free. They get on with the game. The referees aren't at the centre of the game. And I know you had a go at one of them last week for getting cramped during the game. But these guys are average age. Yeah, one of the refs. These guys are average age 39, 40. And they're running as much as a midfield player. And also, unlike other players, they can't take a breather. They've got to stay with the play. A winger, I used to be a winger a million years ago, right winger with 2 left feet, but that's another story. But you can take a break in the game. You can amble back, but they can't.
I'm always a bit harsh on the referees, but you're right. The refereeing has basically been exceptional. And although I'm a VAR skeptic, right, my main reason for VAR skepticism is it removes the instantaneous nature of the game, right?
Yes.
So I was never opposed to goal line technology because that could immediately tell you in a millisecond whether the ball had crossed the line. What I can't bear is waiting for 5 or 6 minutes while some people in a studio somewhere get out and draw geometric lines across some pitch about whether somebody's toenails are offside. But generally speaking, in this tournament, it has been lightning fast.
Yeah.
except weirdly, I think the incident you were referring to was it didn't matter so much. Spain were 4-0 up, but
That's right.
could have won 5-0 in the stoppage time in the last couple of minutes of the game against Saudi Arabia. I thought it was offside when I first saw it. I mean, as soon as I saw the replay, I knew it was offside, and it took them 5 minutes for some goddamn reason. What was
Yeah.
that about? That was going back to the Premier League, where you just get this ludicrous pause, which
Yeah.
is devastating for fans in the stadium, particularly.
Yeah, well, that's the point I was about to make, that people forget that the people in the stadium, people actually paid their money to go to the bloody games, are sitting there for 4 and 5 minutes not knowing what the hell is happening. I mean, if you're at home, you're watching endless replays of it and your mind's made up and you're going, why are they taking this long? But for the paying customer, I think that's really poor. So thankfully, as we've just said, that was an isolated incident in this tournament so far, and long may that be the case. Can I just go back on a couple of points that Paul was making?
Yeah, if you're quick.
All right, Saka, and you, I think, about Saka. I think you're wrong. Just look at the way he glided down Croatia's left wing, his right wing, to make the goal for Rashford. It was genius. He glided past them, he cut inside, he laid the perfect ball to Rashford, gave him an easy goal. So I'm hopeful that he is actually fit. Madueke isn't half a bad substitute for him as well. Max Dowman, I don't know if you realise, but he became the youngest ever player to win a Premiership winning medal. And then he was on the subs bench for the Champions League the following week and doing his GCSEs in between. So maybe it's a bit early for him. Maybe he's on holiday on the South Coast now. I have no idea. And also, just one point, do you think Ivan Toney's first kick in the tournament might be a penalty?
Well, I kind of hope not, because that went awry for us when we lost to Italy on penalties, suddenly putting people on at the last minute, taking a penalty kick cold, basically. Yeah. So I would hope if he comes on for the purpose of taking a penalty kick, you give him 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes to kind of warm up and touch the ball twice. That would be my hope. Now, the other thing I want just to get your thoughts on, Glyn, before we get to the predictions and my bet of the day, I'm just a little bit worried that football's not taking off in the way that I'd hoped in America. We've seen endless sort of celebrations in the streets, the Tartan Army in Boston, the England fans getting drunk in Dallas. Worth actually a big shout out to the Dutch, who have been absolutely spectacular. Let's have a little bit of clip 3, the Dutch invasion. It just looks utterly glorious. This was in Houston, I think it was. Clip number 3. Pretty goddamn impressive. In stark contrast, look, I really want to, convert Americans away from baseball and NFL and basketball to association football. But have a look at clip 8, the USA fans. Not really as passionate if you check out clip number 8. Yeah, I mean, okay, half an effort, but not quite the passion. What do you think, Glyn? Is it going to really catch on this time in America? It kind of caught fire when they first had the World Cup there in '94. It had a legacy after that. I'm just not sure that association football's ever going to break through into being one of the big sports in the USA.
I agree. I think it'll be the number 3 sport after football and basketball and stay there. And I mean, that, don't scoff at that, given the size of America. What is it, 250 million people? That's a lot of fans. That's a lot of money. And then if you talk about the Netflix stuff like Wrexham and all that kind of thing, you're going, unlike football in the 70s in America, I think this time it is here to stay. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. And cliche, but, the kids love playing it in school. So I think its future is assured. On that chanting, I think it just shows Americans have difficulty with acronyms, but maybe not.
Yeah, it might be right. Look, We've got to look forward to tonight's games. It's Argentina versus Austria. I forgot to ask Sophie her score, but she's texted it in. She's going for 1-0 to the Argies. I've gone for 2-0. France versus Iraq, I've gone 4-0 France. Paul went 5-0 France. You've got to give us Norway versus Senegal and Jordan, who we profiled earlier, against Algeria, Glenn, and anything to tell us about those games later this evening.
Well, I'm going for the Haaland factor on Norway. I've got them at 2-1, and I think Haaland will get both goals. Jordan, Algeria, I mean, that's one for shift workers and insomniacs and you, Mark, isn't it? That's a 4 a.m. kickoff. So, and dare I say, not the most tempting of World Cup fixtures, although Algeria still got some lovely players. I think Riyad Mahrez is still playing there at 35, a gorgeous player. So there are my predictions. Let's see how it goes.
So let's put up image 7 on the screen so people can see the predictions overall. And we obviously had a bumper weekend. I did pretty well on that. If we pull up now over the 28 matches that we've had predictions on, if we pull up image number 5, I'm glad to say I am beating the rest of the world, and currently by some margin. If image number 5, there you go, 18-10 ahead. So Glyn, you and the guests are going to have to do a little bit better than that in the games ahead. I had a blistering weekend. However, that said, my financial advice has been pretty poor. All 5 of my bets went down last week. So I might be morally winning in the predictions game, but there's no goddamn money on it. So I'm desperately trying to recover my losses. And here is my bet today. Glyn, you mentioned the Haaland factor, but if we pull up image number 4, I thought this was a pretty good bet. I got odds of 4.1 on Haaland being the first goal scorer for Norway versus Senegal. I'm chasing longer and longer odds now with my £100 in the red, but I'll make most of that back if Haaland taps in the first one in the Norway-Senegal game tonight. Do you like that bet, Glenn? Am I finally going to strike lucky, have a bit of a gold rush, or am I going to sink further and deeper into the red at a faster rate than the incoming Burnham government?
No, I think you're going to claw back there, Mark. If Norway are going to score, you'd think it's got to be Haaland. Just the same with City, really. Is so dominant. Also, do you think Messi will break the record tonight?
Could do, I'd say. I mean, Austria are a kind of average-ish team, isn't it? But yeah, you'd probably say it's more likely than not that Messi will score and break the record. But as I say, that's another one that should be divided by the number of games you played and all of that sort of thing. You know, back in the day, the Jeff Hurst didn't have much of a chance. You just had many, many, many fewer matches. So those are the statistics I take with a pinch of salt. So great tournament so far. Look, we're going to be back tomorrow at noon. We're joined by Hull City legend Dean Windass, who scored that epic goal to get Hull City up in the playoff final all those years ago. Repeated, of course, in the playoff final this year to get his take from an ex-pro's perspective of how the World Cup is going. We'll be back then. We were saying maybe the USA, you know, it's never going to catch their top sports of NFL and baseball and maybe basketball. But I just wonder, to play us out, whether it could really capture the hearts and minds of the Canadians. They seem to know how to party like the Brazilians and the Tartan Army and the England fans. So to play us out, before we see you tomorrow, again, remember, like and subscribe. We're getting really close to that 10,000 subscriber number. It'd be great to hit it this week. But to play us out, here are the football fanatics of host nation Canada. Enjoy. See you at noon tomorrow for another World Cup Cuppa. That's clip number 2 to play us out.